So at the outset, very good afternoon, everyone. I thank ICSI IIP for giving me opportunity to have the presentation on this very important, most relevant topic of voluntary liquidation as per IBC. Ma'am, I'm audible. I'm clearly audible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So, voluntary liquidation, voluntary winding up. My experience about this assignment is I've been doing 8 assignments now, for out of which two NCLT orders or dissolutions orders have been passed. Others orders we are waiting for adjudicating authorities' attention. Uh, Apart from that, few are in pipeline which we are handling. So what I intend to do today is share my practical experiences. We'll keep the session as a combination of theory as well as practical. Theory definitely we cannot ignore. So the theoretical aspect of this is what are the applicable provisions, uh, the rules, the regulations, income tax related provisions, or also the practical difficulties or practical precautions which a person is willing to, or an IP as an IP we should take while handling voluntary winding up assignment. There is a myth in the minds of many that voluntary winding up assignments are not that much interesting, or those who regularly do IP, I've observed, I do provide assistance to senior IPs, with a view to learn CRP processes. So I sometimes I be part of it. So I have heard from many professionals that okay, voluntary winding up is a not very interesting assignment, or as compared to the work involved, it is not lucrative. Not much money is received, but I personally think my experience is different in this. A lot of opportunities, a lot of scope. There's no question of less amount. It's up to us as a professional how we take up the assignment and how we do the assignment. In my all 8 experience, I have never compromised on anything as regards remuneration or even the handling of assignment. Having said that, there were also 7 8 inquiries to which I denied taking up the assignment. Looking at the financials, we'll be discussing while we discuss the rules. I'll tell you practical experiences or how while taking up the assignment what I verified. I'll start the screen sharing where I can present you my summary of presentation, what I wish to cover today. So you're able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, and the PPT is moving.
Yeah, now it is.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, what I wish to cover is refreshing few concepts like insolvency, bankruptcy, dissolution, and so on. Reasons, what are the reasons winding up takes place, voluntary winding up, grounds, what are there. Two laws which govern winding up today are Companies Act and IBC. It was only Companies Act earlier. And what is the scenario right now? Which path is advisable in case of companies, and which should go for Companies Act, and which is the path which the company should choose under IBC. That we'll discuss. Again, who can apply, on what grounds, various ways of closing companies in India right now. Striking off of company we'll quickly discuss. Not relevant topic today, but many times I'll also share some practical experience where professional commit mistake. They choose striking off for the companies, or they try to fit in the companies which are actually required to be wound up voluntarily. They are not eligible to be struck off, but maybe due to a wrong advice or maybe wrong understanding, I have experienced in 2 or 3 instances wherein there were certain assets in the company. Assets were sold out, money was distributed, and the nil balance sheet was prepared and striking off application was made, which is, in my view, not allowed in case of a company. Capital can never be distributed without NCLT's approval. There are relevant provisions under Companies Act, Section 68, 66, reduction of capital and buyback of shares. So striking off will be quickly discussing. Voluntary liquidation in India, some statistical data. What is the scenario today? Voluntary liquidation applicable law, Section 59, and voluntary liquidation regulations 2017 will be discussing. Like I said, while discussing the theoretical aspect of it, I'll also share some practical point of view. Maybe they may be precautions, they may be action points, there may be some advices which I have gained over, experience gained over handling these assignments in last 1.5 year. I'm sure you have shown an interest in attending this session. Many of you must be handling voluntary winding ups. Many of you must have completed voluntary winding ups, and many of you must be willing to take up the assignment in future. For the benefit of all the participants, I'll request if any of you have some additional experience. So do share that experience while the presentation only. And I won't mind stopping me at any point of time for discussing any point, any question, any query. So you can stop me at any point of time. We'll take up the question and we'll discuss. We'll discuss the timeline as regards voluntary winding up, liquidation requirements, uh, voluntary liquidation reporting requirements. So what are reporting? What do we report basically to ROC, to IBBI, through forms, sometimes through emails, then to income tax authorities also, Section 178 of Income Tax Act. Practical difficulties which we face while handling voluntary winding up assignment. What precautions to be taken while taking up the assignment. And see, that is again based upon a few of my colleagues who are IPs who took up the assignment and later on they faced certain issues. Not very much orders are available. If you see the today's scenario, IBBI website, around 532 orders are available as regards voluntary winding up. I downloaded all the orders, scanned through each and every order, and what I've done is, as a crux, I have taken down 10 different kind of orders. 95% of orders are same, a typical nature, a routine order also we'll see, and other orders are there with slight differences there. Some withdrawals are there. One is LLP winding up is there. So that I have compiled for the benefit of all. I'll also be showing you the petition of NCLT petition or application which we made, and that application has been approved for the benefit of all and definitely for academic purposes only. Some critical aspects or questions arise while handling the assignment. Many practical questions are there. Those I'll be touching upon. Lastly, the important questions, important cases, and we'll be taking up the questions. So yes, with this, we start with the presentation. Refresh and few concepts. Uh, Basically, winding up. If you see, winding up means it's a beginning of a company, end of a company. It's a process of ending all the business affairs of the company. Winding up is defined under Companies Act, Section 255, provided for through Section 11, amended Companies Act and inserted a definition under Section 94. After Section 94, Clause 94 of Section 2. So 294A was inserted, which meant voluntary winding up or means a liquidation under this act or under liquidation under the insolvency bankruptcy code. So this is clear from this definition that winding up can take place under two laws. Earlier it was under only one law, Companies Act. Companies used to be wound up, and the grounds as to commitment of default, it was only Companies Act. IBC came into picture, and what change IBC has done. I have prepared a comparative slide as to what were the grounds earlier and who used to apply earlier, and now what's the scenario where the voluntary winding up places right now. So it's about winding up. Winding up means 294. It's a closure of company, liquidation of company under either Companies Act or under IBC. Liquidation process. Liquidation is a process where liquidation debtor realizes the assets. The process of selling the assets and paying off liabilities. Surplus to be distributed between the members or contributories. So the process is called as liquidation. Insolvency. Insolvency is a state insufficient to pay the for balance where the debts are more and the assets are less. Insolvency is used in restricted sense to express the inability of a person to pay the debts. So that is insolvency. Bankruptcy is again official declaration of insolvency. When a court declares a person is insolvent, bankruptcy order is passed. So a debtor who has been adjudged as bankrupt by Section 126, a bankruptcy that's an undischarged insolvent. Again, dissolution. This is the last concept, refresher concept, which I wish to discuss. Dissolution. When we start voluntary winding up, we aim for this order. Dissolution certificate or dissolution order passed by adjudicating authority, that is NCLT, is a death certificate of a company. So dissolution is the final stage whereby the existence of the company is withdrawn by law. Dissolution brings about the end to the life of the entity. Now, what may be the reasons for winding up? See, no promoters of the company will be willing, or nobody intends to register a company, or nobody intends a company to register with an intention to close it down. But yes, in case of company being an artificial person created by law, it is created in the manner prescribed by law, and similarly, it is closed in the manner prescribed by law. Death is a part of life for a company also, and there may be several reasons due to which a company can be closed. Commercial viability may be an issue. Running into losses, we have to ensure we are in the process of closing one company which is into losses, but that is solvent. So I have to ensure when the company is into continuous losses, we should ensure that it although there are assets, losses are huge, whether the assets are sufficient to pay the liabilities. Before advising voluntary winding up, we should ensure this. So running into losses, into bracket, we can say the company is solvent. So solvency has not gone for voluntary winding up. Then not carrying on business operations. Sometimes it happens, business is not carried on. We closed the
Sorry,
Goa-based company. Yeah.
so slowly. You said about something about solvency. If you could just help repeat the concept again. Insolvency is what we understand is there's a default in making payments and there's not sufficient funds.
Correct.
Then in that case, they are insolvent. The
Yes.
concept of solvency also you said under voluntary winding up.
Yeah.
If you could just repeat it a little slowly for me to
So it's very
gather.
simple. See, if we see section 7, section 9, section 10, these are the sections of IBC which require a prerequisite as default. Default means inability to pay a debt, either partly or fully. A person is unable to pay the debts. Similar kind of provision was there under Old Companies Act, where if a person is not able to pay any amount more than 500 rupees, demand is made and amount is due, date is acknowledged, and he is unable to pay. So that is default. And solvency is the inverse of it. The person is able to pay the debts. There are sufficient assets. See, if we see the prerequisite of voluntary winding up, firstly, there are no debts at all. If you see the financial statements, apart from capital, there is nothing. That might be the one stage in case of company. Or there are liabilities, there are debts. But if we see the assets, for example, the liabilities are of rupees 100, and there are assets of maybe 200 or 150. Out of which, so out of the realization of asset, I'll be comfortably able to pay the liabilities and no outstanding liability or default will be there. That is called as solvency. So it's a state where I am not unable to pay the debts. Is it okay,
That
ma'am?
would imply, in short, I would understand this as you've got a positive net worth.
Perfect, ma'am. You are absolutely right. You are
Yes.
correct. So there has to be positive net worth. And it is the responsibility cast upon the directors to ensure whether the company is solvent. They have to, we'll go through the process. In the subsection 1 only it is there. The prerequisite is for voluntary winding up. A person or a company cannot go for voluntary winding up if it is not solvent. Like I said when I started, 6 to 7 inquiries are there, to which I said, no, we cannot take up this assignment for voluntary winding up. Maybe for section 10 or something we may think of. But for voluntary winding up, solvency is an essential prerequisite, first and foremost requirement. That net worth has to be positive. You would think why a company having positive net worth will be closed down. We are discussing the reasons as well. I'll also tell you some practical. My first voluntary winding up, I'll be presenting that order today at the end of the session. So why that got closed? It was a Taiwanese company, and Taiwan, China, or many companies are there. Government cancelled their license. Government cancelled that TikTok app were banned. Several Chinese apps were banned. So when licensing is cancelled, similarly, yesterday I read a case wherein RBI increased the net worth requirement of a NBFC, which the company was not possible to comply with. So their license was cancelled. The company got it. So there are several reasons. A Goa-based company I was telling about is foreigners, especially during the snowfall over there, they prefer to come to India and stay at Goa so that they get sunbath. So there is a frequent travel of foreigners at Goa. So with that thought, a foreigner floated a company over here. Some guest house company was there. He operated the company for 30 years. And now, because of his age, he's a senior citizen now. He was willing to go away. And again, there is no profitability. You might be aware, so many new hotels and big brands are there at Goa. So that was not running into profit. So these are kind of companies Some have a bank balance of 4 crore 50 lakhs. Some have mutual funds. Some have uh, assets, immovable properties are there. So these companies are basically not eligible to go under striking off under section 248 of IBC. So commercial viability, running into losses, not carrying on business operations, unable to manage the affairs of the company, purpose for which the company was formed was accomplished. There is also a mention of that. Suppose a company is floated with an object. Suppose it's a construction company and it says that construction of XYZ site. So this project we complete. It's a project of maybe 400 flats. We complete that and then we hand over it possession to the society and we exit. So if that is the only purpose for which the company is formed, the company can wound up, the purpose is accomplished. Contract termination, then no revenue is there. Cancellation of license and registrations we already discussed. Government norms, they cancel the license. RBI cancelled NBFC license in many cases, or any other reasons, any other natural reasons. Many times company, I have a company wherein the private companies purchased a bungalow. It's a director's bungalow. Inadvertently, maybe for what reason I don't know, he purchased. There's no active into the company. Simply the immovable property was mistakenly purchased into that. At that time, nobody was there to advise it. Unnecessary is maintaining the company because today's date, if he transfers that asset to the director, the unnecessary stamp duty and those things are there. But here we can play a value addition. We can say, sir, if really you don't want to maintain the company, it is headache every time you file the returns. It is headache for them to file the returns. So there may be several situations where we can give solutions. We can come forward. There may be also a situation wherein group companies are there. One of the group companies has to be shut down. There are also alternatives available. It may either be closed through voluntary winding up, or it may think of merger also. Several options are available based upon the facts and circumstances and benefits. So these may be the reasons for closure or voluntary liquidation of a company. Grounds. Now this is important. The comparison between IBC and company law. How the scenario was there under the old Companies Act, previous company laws. Previous company law in the sense before introduction of IBC. So earlier I have strike through this and marked in red. That is intentionally I have done because by way of amendment, if you can see this left hand side portion, the A part has been shifted to this right part. Unable to pay the dates or inability to pay the dates has been removed from Companies Act. Now, under Companies Act, voluntary winding up can take place, section 271 and the sections onward, where special resolution has been passed, acted against the interest of country or sovereignty of country or friendly nations or sovereignty or states or public order or decency. A rare scenario, not a very routine matter. Application to ROC due to fraud, misspends or misconcept. Annual filing not done for 5 years. And again, just an equitable grounds. These are the only grounds now available under Companies Act for which you can go for winding up.
Oh,
If you, yeah,
just clarify the special resolution. The special resolution has to be by the company
yeah, by the shareholders
for
of the company.
passed for winding up by tribunal. Okay, so this is a resolution which will be passed.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
not by the tribunal. It will just they will approach the tribunal once the resolution is passed.
Yes. So they will pass the special resolution and approach the tribunal under section 271. And for that, the tribunal, again, adjudicating authority for Companies Act as well as IBC is NCLT only. But I'll tell you what we advise to the, or it's a very raw or simple comparison. But if you try to compare winding up under Companies Act and winding up under IBC, voluntary winding up under IBC, if we compare, IBC winding up was like a bullet train. And Companies Act winding up is like a regular passenger train or maybe a cargo train, which is very, very slow. So there's no time-bound process. That's a difficulty. There's also recently a change when we see the ways in which a company is wound up. An attempt was made in the year of 2020 by the ministry to reduce the load of NCLT and introduced a concept of summary winding up. We all know fast track merger, that is under section 233. Through regional director route, we can do merger. Similar kind of rules are introduced. Those are notified. And I doubt whether any application has gone there or not. Hardly there must be any application in India. But it provides that official liquidator, OL under the Companies Act will operate as a liquidator there. And it is the regional director. Certain classes of companies are there, turnover based and net worth based criteria is there. Based upon that, maybe asset size is less than 1 crore. they can apply, and through regional director route, they can go for winding up. That kind of concept is also introduced. But overall, in my view, Companies Act, voluntary winding up, nobody prefers, or winding up nobody prefers unless it is necessary. Unless it is necessary. I've also seen orders in section 10 where passed by honorable bench NCLT, wherein section 10 application is made, to which they have diverted the application in to go to Companies Act under section 271. In one of the operation mismanagement cases which I'm doing involved as a respondent, the bench has recently passed an order for to go for a winding up under section 271. So, given a choice, preferred choice, a consultant like you and me will never advise our client to go for voluntary winding up under Companies Act. So this is the main change which has happened. Inability to pay the dates has been removed from Companies Act, and that has been brought under the IBC section 7, section 9. Next slide, I'll be showing that. Unable
So
to pay the
what
date. Yeah.
what can be the what can be the examples of just an equitable ground for winding up?
Just an equitable grounds for winding up. Mm, See, there is one case which has we have not yet started. I have just done the homework on that, but that can be just an equitable ground. What has happened? There is a genuine business loss. Just an equitable is very wide concept. I'll just give one example. There is a company, telecommunication company is there, and for no reason, no fault of management, that company's license got cancelled. 2G spectrum scam was happened. Uh, Maybe 6, 7 years, 10 years back, if you remember, 2G scam is there, which had happened, and that company was into
2013
telecommunication. So
around.
around 90 to 100 companies were there, office license were cancelled. This company in the fourth year was doing a turnover of 90 crores. It owned 10,000 towers, mobile towers, but suddenly got stopped. So now the liability, if you see the GST liability, income tax liability, huge liability is there. And they can't function, they can't do the business. Here, liabilities are there, asset, those are charged, SBI's charges on there. So there is no scope for running the company now. It can be any ground. Maybe senior citizens are there who have floated this company, they're not willing to. There's no succession plan as such. So under just an equitable grounds, simply a resolution can be passed. This can be a case scenario, just an equitable ground through a person may go for winding up. Again, the special resolution will have to be passed, and tribunal can be approached for that. Shall we proceed?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, again, who can apply? Same comparison under the Companies Act and under IBC. This provisions provide a company may, any contributory may, all or any of the persons specified in clause A to B. Then registrar we saw 5 years filing is not there. Any person authorized by the government in the public interest. Creditor again removed. Why I have intentionally kept F there is it was there earlier, but under the Companies Act, they have removed the default inability to pay the debt that has been brought over here. Section 7, financial creditor may initiate the CIRP. We all are aware of CIRP process, 180 days, so additional extension 90 days if granted. And if nothing happens, resolution plan is rejected or creditors pass a resolution for winding up, it goes for liquidation. That is based upon inability to pay the debts. Operational creditor, he may initiate under by sending a notice under 8 and filing a petition under section 9. And if the petition is admitted by adjudicating authority, again the same CIRP process. Corporate applicant section 10, wherein corporate applicant himself, the company itself applies. In all these cases, default is essential. Upon non-successful CIRP, liquidation can be passed by tribunal. Section 59, voluntary liquidation for non-default. Non-default. We'll go to the section, and section itself at the start stage says that that positive net worth has to be there. There should not be default. So this is the scenario who can apply. Under IBC, these are the paths available. Creditors, they have pushed over here. Otherwise, these are all interested parties under who can apply.
In the comparison again, the first part is the company. So the
Yeah.
company can actually apply even under Companies Act.
Yeah.
And not under section 10 alone, in case even if they do not have sufficient funds to pay their debt.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Absolutely, it can do so. So wherever suitable, it should go under 271. Rarely it will choose, like I have to travel Delhi from here. Then which train I'll choose? So there are several factors to it. Prima facie, I want to reach fast, so I'll choose IBC only. But there are certain things. Maybe I have money constraint, for example. So there are situations, or many a times, like I said, recently I saw an order where Section 10 petition was filed, and NCLT itself directed that you go under Section 271. So both options are available, as you rightly said.
But what will be the benefit? And understanding, of course, the pace at which the Companies Act functions. Why did the tribunal suggest that they go under Companies Act instead of IBC? Because Section 10 application is basically when they do not have sufficient funds to pay their creditors.
Uh, See, personally, my view is judges were not comfortable passing that order. Section 10, if you have seen, many a times judges are reluctant to pass the order because it is the path. See, it is sometimes the provisions of IBC are misused. So that might be the reason wherein they did not simply allow this thing so that they can run away from the liability. IBC provisions are misused. Section 10, as soon as it was notified, 200 plus companies filed an application, which were actually defaulters. The question was whether they were genuine defaulters, it was a genuine business loss or not. The intention of this provision is to allow a person to go through CIRP himself and give him an opportunity to revive himself and come back. So that's the what we call as good intention, which has been prescribed by law. But wherever there is a malified intention of filing this application, in my view, that Section 10 application was filed with a malified intention. So in order to keep that on slow track, better get investigated in detail. For that purpose, they diverted it to Section 271 in that particular case.
Hello, can we say this application under Section 7, 9, 10 of IBC as winding up? It's not winding up, I believe. It's a CRP.
Yes, sir. It's a CIRP which may ultimately result into winding up. What I say here, see, inability to pay the dates.
No.
Upon successful CIRP, liquidation
Section
under can be.
7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10, all are covered in CIRP.
Correct.
Winding up process is different.
Yes, sir.
Section 59 is voluntary winding up. It says if the company is pay the able to pay the debt.
Yes, sir.
That's these sections 7, 9, 10. If the company is not able to pay the debt, and
Correct.
some creditors are approached to NCLT and initiate to CIRP process, is a later on stage, is after 180 days or maybe if the company is not in a position to pay this, then approach to NCLT to file application before NCLT by the RP.
Correct, sir.
Then start the winding up process.
Correct.
There's a
Agree with you,
difference
sir.
between a winding up process and a voluntary winding up.
I differ. Sorry, I differ here. See, this 7, 9, 10 is a CRP process, nothing to do with winding up or liquidation. If it doesn't successful, then you have to file liquidation application under Section 33. So it's totally different. So I think, in my opinion, this doesn't come under winding up. And
Yes, sir.
winding up,
I've clarified to that effect.
Yes,
Deferred
my
is
opinion
essentially
is also same.
Actually, it's
My
not
opinion is
winding
also
up, it's liquidation. It's liquidation after
it's not
CIRP
winding
is
up.
unsuccessful.
Winding up is totally different thing, and liquidation is different thing. So I think it's under IBC. After liquidation, you go for dissolution. There is no question of winding up.
Okay. Okay. So I've clarified that default is essential here. Upon non-successful CIRP, liquidation order passes by tribunal. So in above cases, ultimately that the company goes for closure. The existence of the company comes to an end.
My dear friend, that is why I'm saying it doesn't come under winding up provision. It's a totally different thing.
I agree with you, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we both are saying the same thing, that it is CIRP, but where the CIRP is not successful, or if the creditors pass a resolution in advance that no, we don't want to have a resolution plan, looking at the financials, the creditors themselves, committee of creditors pass a resolution for liquidation. It may
DOC.
apply to tribunal, and tribunal passes an order for liquidation, which ultimately results into end of the company.
Dissolution. This is after liquidation, dissolution of the
Yeah,
company.
liquidation and then dissolution.
Correct.
So
it
we are
will be
discussing
liquidation.
here what are the ways where company can be closed.
Okay, let us agree to disagree.
Yes, sir.
Different views.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, inability to pay the dates, they are brought in under IBC now under 7, 9, 10. And of course, our today's topic is voluntary winding up. So moving forward in this, various ways of closing the company now. What are the ways in which a company can be closed right now? Section 248, striking off of company. Certain classes of companies, defunct companies, it is removal of name from the records. Company having no assets, no liabilities, inoperative from last 2 years, may opt for this option. Section 248, there are two ways. I have discussed that in next slide. There are two ways. The section empowers at first instance to the register of companies to send a notice and inquire whether the company is carrying on any business or not. Or the company itself can suo moto make an application. There is a prescribed form for it, and upon payment of that prescribed fees to MCA, and the application is perfect, then in that case the company gets struck off. 20 years the company can be revived or restored under section 252. Winding up of company, section 271. Then again, summary winding up process, which I was discussing about. Section 361, the rules which are notified, wherein official liquidator office acts as a liquidator, and regional director has got a power to pass a winding up order. Practically, I am not aware of any such order which is there. I doubt whether any case is filed in India in last 4 years, or even if it is filed, as per my knowledge, at least OIL Mumbai, there is no order passed under this regulations. That is summary or fast track winding up process or liquidation process. Certain classes of companies are there. One of the criteria is net worth or asset size is less than 1 crores. So certain criteria they have prescribed, they may apply for it. Voluntary liquidation under section 59. This is our today's topic for discussion. I'll be covering every aspect of it. Winding up where no resolution is possible. So to take sir's view, we may term it as liquidation where no resolution is possible. Section 7, 9. Again, voluntary commencement of CIRP under section 10. So through these are the ways where closing a company. A company gets closed or existence of company's life comes to an end through these routes. Depending upon the client, depending upon the company, the suitable path may be chosen. Quickly, we'll discuss 248. Striking off of company. Two aspects I told. ROC has a reasonable cause to believe that failure to commence the business. Commencement of business, new provision that Form 20A has to be filed. No business carried for 2 years or failure to bring subscription money, 20A. Or company make an application by passing a special resolution or 75% of members give consent. Indemnity bond is there, affidavit is there, bank account of the company is closed. Statement of accounts has to be prepared, certified by the directors and the auditor of the company, which is normally nil assets and liabilities. That is normally on the liability side, it is capital, asset side it is loss, P&L debit balance. NOC from consent authority, if any, and ID, address proof documents and KYC documents of promoters are asked. Now this application goes to Delhi. Earlier, this application used to be verified by respective register of companies. Now this goes to CRC and it is processed through there only.
So what does the indemnity bond normally include? What are the statements like?
Indemnity bond, they prescribe that if at all any liability comes in next 20 years, we'll personally own that liability.
So it's 20 years, who would be bearing the liability? The shareholders or the directors?
Directors.
The directors will be personally responsible, including the independent directors, is it?
Yes, including the independent directors, because there's no difference made into directors. So all the directors which are giving the indemnity bond, indemnity can be collective indemnity or it can be a individual single indemnity.
And NOC from the concerned authority would mean any particular authority, or it would mean all authorities like your income tax, your GST, your various
NOC
of
from
course.
income tax GST is not required. Suppose the company has taken a specific license. So that surrender of license, maybe for running a business, a particular license is required. Like suppose manpower supply and security services are there. For that, Pasara license is required. Additionally, few licenses are required. So those authorities clearance will have to be taken.
So now suppose how would the ROC know that all these authorities have given an NOC? Because usually you would of course know something about the PF, ESIC or income tax or GST, but how would they really know that, okay, fine, Pasara is, if it is a manpower company or
See, what
maybe
ROC
some
does, what's
Hmm.
ROC does, I'll tell you on the basis of my experience, I'll tell you. As soon as we file this application, they verify their past records, 3-4 years. They ensure first of all whether there is charge or not. They see the past 4-5 years financial statements, whether the company was actually inactive for 2 years or more. Are there any unsecured loans which has been taken? Is there any activity? And again, in the new annual filing era, the activity codes are there. Based upon that, ROC can recognize in which sector this company is operating. And for the NOC from income tax is not required, but they do insist for 3 years income tax return. In one of our case, they raised a query and they asked for last 3 years income tax return. But we had only 2 years income tax return at that time. So we attached a clarification letter stating that the company had filed only 2 years return. Past return filing was not possible. So on the basis of that, the company was struck off. So based upon whatever records is available with ROC and what is the important document on which the ROC trusts, he puts the responsibility actually on professionals. Firstly, if you see the statement of accounts, that is nil, no assets, no liabilities. That means a chartered accountant has certified, he has verified that. That is first thing. Secondly, STK2, a professional certifies the form which are there, which are certified by the professional, liability and responsibilities cast upon them. If they commit a wrong certification, 447, 448, action is taken. So this is the methodology or mechanism through which closure application, striking of application is verified at Delhi.
Sure, sir. In case there are any more questions, probably I'll bother you. Thank you.
Thank you, please. Yes, certain classes of companies cannot apply again. Listed companies. This they have given in the scheme, removal of name rules they have given. So which classes of companies cannot apply for striking off? These are the companies which cannot go for striking off. Section 25, now Section 8. Companies which have accepted public deposits, having charges open for satisfaction. These companies cannot go opt for Section 248 option for closure. Now, a quick scenario of voluntary liquidation in India. Not very what we call as important as such. It's just a statistical data available in the annual report of IBBI on their website. We can straight away go to the last this thing that July to September 23, 66 liquidation orders were passed during this period, and in all 644 voluntary winding ups. 46.66 crores creditors are paid out of it. Winding up, basically, I have discussed practical difficulties also on that, what are faced in this kind of assignment. But this is some statistical data available as regards voluntary winding up in India. Now there is an awareness and application are being filed under Section 59. Presently, for closing a solvent company, this is the most preferred option which is there, considering the simplicity of process is there. Voluntary liquidation applicable provisions. I'll be discussing the Section 59, not all these sections. This is just an applicability. 59 we'll discuss, and we'll discuss CRP regulations. One by one, we'll discuss those regulations. If at all you want, at 3:30 we can take a break, or we may also continue. That participants may suggest. So applicable law, when I take up an assignment of voluntary winding up, what I must know, what law I must understand. Section 59 of IBC, 9 subsections are there, very small subsection, very small sections are there. Subsection 3 is a bit descriptive. We'll go through that. Subsection 6 states that 35 to 53 related provisions are the liquidation related provisions are applicable mutatis mutandis, which whatever necessary changes are there, those provisions will be applicable, especially the powers and duties of liquidator, liquidation estate, consolidation of claims. Those provisions are applicable and those need to be followed in the voluntary liquidation process. Lastly, Chapter 7, offenses and penalties provisions are also applicable in case of voluntary liquidation. These are also provisions which need attention. Small disclaimer, I have taken a help of chartered accountant as regards income tax area is concerned. Being their expert area, we don't advise income tax, but definitely as a professional who is carrying out voluntary winding up process, I have to have a knowledge about this. So these are relevant provisions which are there. As regards income tax, I will be going through these provisions also. When I'm handling voluntary winding up process, I need to be aware of these provisions. And Companies Act, wherever it is applicable, wherever applicable provisions are there. So section 59, I'll stop sharing this presentation. I'll share this entire screen. Okay, you're able to see my full screen?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll quickly touch upon section 59. And like I said, while we see the provisions, I'll also be telling some practical insights, practical aspects of it. Certain questions are there. And of course, seniors and experienced and those who have handled winding up assignments, they can also clarify or add to it for the benefit of all. Section 59, Chapter 5 of IBC, Voluntary Liquidation of Corporate Person. Firstly, any corporate person intends to liquidate itself has not committed a default. So at the start of the section itself says that there cannot be a default. Positive net worth has to be there. A company having default cannot go for liquidation. 2 weeks back, one company approached wherein it had charges open, and we saw the intention of promoters were different. They wanted to defraud the creditors. So straight away, this case doesn't fit into it. Before taking up the assignment, it was denied. It also happens sometimes that later on the liquidator realizes that the intention is different, or the corporate person is not solvent. The process has been initiated. Two such instances are there. I'll discuss that while discussing the precautions to be taken later. So in one of the cases, leading cases, I also have that case law. I'll show that case. Liquidator filed an application before adjudicating authority under Regulation 40 sub Regulation 2, withdrawing the liquidation, where he later on realized that company is not a solvent. So subsection 1 states that a company intends to, or a corporate person intends to liquidate itself and has not committed any default. Then voluntary liquidation process should meet the conditions as may be prescribed, where the conditions are prescribed by IBBI. IBBI, Voluntary Liquidation Process Regulations of 2017. Now, subsection 3 is elaborative. What conditions are to be fulfilled, required to be fulfilled? Firstly, a declaration. Firstly, declaration of majority of directors in case of any LLP or any other entity from designated partners or governing body. Declaration of majority of directors by an affidavit, verified by an affidavit. They have to state two things. They have made inquiry into the state of affairs of the company. Either there are no dates, or there are dates, but the assets are sufficient to pay all the debts, which we discussed. The section clearly specifies this. Secondly, the company is not liquidated to defraud the creditors. Like I said, not only is voluntary winding up process, section 9, section 7, section 10, there are instances wherein IBC provision sometimes people try to twist, and which is again penal offense. So whenever defrauding is the intention, these provision cannot be exercised, or this cannot be advised, or this option is not available for the promoters. The declaration should also, now this declaration along with affidavit, the promoter should stay they have made a full inquiry into the state of affairs of the company, and again there are no dates, or there are dates but which are we are able to pay through the assets being sold, not being liquidated to defraud the creditors. Because of this, if we compare voluntary liquidation assignment with CIRP, this assignment is slightly peaceful in nature because the resources are full. The company, if it's really solvent and a genuine company, then the task is very simple, because there's no question of defrauding anyone. It's only payment of liabilities, and it's a procedure formality which needs to be taken care of. Declaration of solvency has to be attached along with audited financial statements and records of business operations of the company of 2 years period since the incorporation, for lesser period. Maybe for the companies for lesser period than for that particular period. So 2 years audited financial statements and record of business operations which are there, those to be attached, and report of valuation, registered valuer. Registered valuer's report is required where the company has assets. Assets means immobile property, mobile property, shares, tangible assets, intangible assets. If it is only cash and bank balance, obviously valuation of asset is not required. So this valuation report is not required in this case where there are only cash and bank balances. So these are documents are required to be attached along with the declaration. Then from this declaration, yeah.
So what does a record of business comprise of?
Actually, record of business, what we do is we prepare a document and we take a briefing about them in 2 or 3 pages. We take a briefing about that company when it was floated. This is a promoter's write-up which we take generally. What had happened, what was the activity the company was, record of business operations, what it used to carry on, what it was used to do, and why now it intends to go for closure. So that's a record we create basically. We ask like the way we take engagement letter, we take we have to quote everywhere the reason for closure. So it helps. This is a document which helps. So record of business operations need to be attached additionally. We attach a 2-3 pages document as a record of business operations.
So you mean to say maybe 1 or 2 page a document from the words of promoters or directors, like profile of company from
Correct, sir.
the mouth of directors.
Correct,
So
sir.
it's a write-up basically.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So there is no
It's a write-up.
there is no there is no other business record or something facts and figures. It's not required apart from financials, audited financial statement.
There is no prescription. There is no prescription, but maybe for the comfort of liquidator, for the comfort of voluntary liquidator, he may ask for additional data. Suppose licenses are there. Like I said, 2G spectrum scam, there were licenses which were cancelled. So we may, whatever you are providing, give us additional supporting document to that effect. Why these provisions are there? What they may wish to have is there should not be an intention to defraud. Some malified intention is not there. Why the company is closing? Why this exit option is being exercised by them? So there is no prescription as such. A record of business operations. What we take is what was the company doing earlier. In fact, practically what I do, although not required, 5 to 6 years financial statements I ask to the company, and I also take a search, independent search at my end. What transactions have happened in past? That is to verify the records of business.
And this affidavit is signed by the directors and the promoters both?
No, directors, only directors.
Okay.
Promoters is a very wider concept. Promoters include shareholders also. Those who are exercising the control into the company, those are promoters. So the section clearly states about directors. So majority of directors have to give this.
Affidavit signed by majority of directors.
Majority of directors. And we, safer side, we take it from all.
Okay.
I'll tell you one of the instances, what had happened. In the difficulty, we'll be discussing that in detail. Why we take it from majority of directors. One of the directors may be a disputing person. In one of the cases, one of my colleague, ma'am was handling a voluntary liquidation. And she initiated the process, started the process, public advertisement was issued, everything was there. And when she was willing to conduct a contributories meeting, at that time, she sent a notice to which a shareholder holding certain percentage of shares objected. 30% of shares objected. He said no resolution was passed, proper resolution was passed, and then the winding up process collapsed. So although they say here that majority of director, I personally insist taking the signatures of all the directors. I take the affidavit and declaration from all the directors. Because there may be some dispute, some differences into this, and that might create trouble at the later stage. Unnecessary our name gets stuck up into the assignment and filing, and compliance gets increased unnecessarily.
So, but doesn't it imply that the most affected person would be the shareholder, one who's invested in the company, more than the directors? Directors are just professionals. So they may comply with the procedures, but when it comes to real investments that are being uprooted, it is the shareholders who would be more interested in knowing as to what is happening in the company, and they should be the one who should be, giving their consent more than the directors.
So their consent we are taking by way of resolution.
Okay, the special resolution
is there. And if they don't want to see, shareholders are ultimately the owners of company. They can kick out the directors. They can remove the directors and replace the entire board. If they have some doubt that the company is not functioning well or the company need not be wound up. So that is there.
Okay.
That's why the special resolution criteria they have kept. Majority of shareholders. A special majority of shareholders they have kept. So this is just initially declaration which is there from the director, but shareholders consent we are taking within 4 weeks. Okay, shall we proceed?
Yes.
Thanks. Within 4 weeks, 28 days. Within 4 weeks, a declaration. So at the board meeting, what happens? Again, I have prepared a table also. We'll go through that table also, which quickly discusses the bullet points, the process points, and very small queries or minor points of discussions are also there. Within 4 weeks, general meeting, shareholders meeting, extraordinary meeting has to be conducted. Special resolution in regular cases. If the company by its article has fixed certain clause, like the example I gave, a company is created for construction of particular residential project or is formed for a particular project and that goal is achieved. In that case, resolution they have said. It's not special resolution. It is ordinary resolution. So there they have allowed ordinary resolution upon occurrence of that event. With an ordinary resolution, the company can be closed down. Provided that the company owes any debt. Now, this is also very, very important and a crucial point. Maybe can be discussed over here because commencement date is very, very important. All your timelines, IBC is a timeline is a essence under IBC. All your timelines start from this date. That is commencement of liquidation. If there are creditors, if a company owes a money to the creditors, there is a requirement that within 7 days of that meeting, that resolution being passed, 2/3 majority is required of creditors approval. A creditors meeting also has to be. So what we practically do is, in only one case we have done this. We plan both the meetings simultaneously. We have to because 7 days is very less time. Creditors approval has to be taken. Creditors have to approve the resolution plan. Resolution passed under clause C within 7 days of such resolution. So creditors approval by 2/3 majority is required. Here the question arises, from which date or what is the date for commencement of liquidation? Commencement of voluntary winding up, what is the date? The section says that it is the dates prescribed in clause C of subsection 3 of 59. But again, if there are no creditors, there is no ambiguity into it. It is the day when the special resolution is passed or members resolution is passed. It is effective from that date. But what if in case of creditors? If creditors pass a resolution, say after 4 days, which is the effective date? Which is the date of commencement? Any idea anybody can guide on this? I hope you got my question. I'll quickly repeat it. What is the date of commencement of voluntary winding up? Where there are creditors and 2/3 creditors approval is taken within 7 days. So whether it is
Date of commencement is when the shareholder has passed a resolution.
Okay, this is a tricky point. Again, here we can agree to disagree. I have a different view on that. In my view, creditors approval is important. Section says shall approve the resolution passed. So what if the creditors doesn't approve? In my view, maybe it is creditors approval date which we take.
So it should be the creditors approval.
In my view, it is creditors. See, there
It
are
should be
many
creditors
points
approval.
in my presentation. Sorry.
Because the creditors meeting is held subsequent to the shareholders meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have the
So
same.
that's the reason why it should be taken from the creditors approval date.
And
moreover, the creditors approval is a must.
Yes, sir.
so the creditors have to be those people who are present and voting, or all creditors which are there in your balance sheet. So 75% of all creditors. Sorry, 75. I mean 66. How much would that be?
66. Yes. Of all the
66
creditors. There's
of
no
all creditors not present and voting.
no present and voting. No, sorry. 2/3 in value of debt.
2/3 in value of debt. Okay.
Yeah. So that clarifies what is the value of debt in that case. So 2/3 in value of debt is there. They have to pass a resolution. Again, practical solution for this, wherever it is possible, if your company is solvent, if you have a creditors, better pay them off to simplify this thing. That too definitely is advisable, wherever possible, to simplify the balance sheet and make it more suitable for voluntary winding up. This only happens in case of bigger companies. where through winding up on process only they have to do this. But yes, this is the process. 2/3 in value of creditors. In my view, creditors date will be the effective date and all the timelines will start from then. Then subsection 4, company to notify
So
registered
it's a
company.
matter of interpretation, like there is no finality, like which should be the LCD date, like is it shareholders or creditors? So it's a matter of 7 days, but it makes a difference because all the timelines is counted from there.
Correct, sir. Correct. It's a matter of interpretation. But I think majority of there's no case law as such. I'll find out that. I did not find any case as such, at least in this scenario. Like I said, there are 530 orders, hardly 530 orders. From last 8 days, I downloaded all the orders, and 7, 8, 10 pages orders are there. I'll scan through all the orders. I did not find certain interesting orders I was searching for this presentation. So 10, 15 different orders I have found out. There's no clarity on this. But that's
practically, I don't think it is possible to get the consent in this duration, because if you look at the banks also, they have got a procedure which they have subscribed within the
correct.
organization and the regulatory approvals. So
True.
normally
Agree
it
with
cannot
you.
happen beyond. I mean, it does take beyond 21 days. It can't happen in 7 days of time.
Agree with you. Even some more time than that. Even
Yeah,
21 days, sometimes
absolutely.
even more than that. That's why I said we have to plan and prepare accordingly. That is, the timeline is such a less timeline, as if you are conducting the meeting simultaneously. So the exercise has to be simultaneous if such situation arises. And simple way out, I told you, wherever possible, pay off the creditors. Don't keep them. You are solvent. You have the bank balance. Anyways, we have to pay it later stage also. So better pay it so that the compliance get reduced. And which is possible. Under the control of directors, they can pay it. But wherever it is not possible, this compliance has to be done. Liquidator has to ensure this compliance. That 7 days is very less time. Totally agree with you.
One more thing, like along with the 2 years audited financials for with the declaration of solvency, should we ask for some audited or certified accounts from the last audited balance sheet date?
Actually, sir, this is very good question. I was about to discuss this at later stage. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Your question is, suppose 2 years now, it is 5th of September today. And we are targeting the liquidation from today only. Say declaration is today's date. You're talking about the financial statements from 1st April to 5th September?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that, see, there is no clarity on this. There is no law on this. If you see NCLT benches practice, different practices are there. Some benches insist that from the date of end of financial year till the commencement of liquidation, that is post April 24 to 5th September 24, that is till the date of declaration or board meeting, you file a audited financial statements. Some benches do not insist that. Based upon 2 years financial statements, they pass liquidation order. I know in both cases liquidation orders have been passed. Benches to benches, the practice vary. Again, same happens in case of ROC report. Some benches wait for 6, 8 months, 1 year for ROC report. Some benches wait for 2 hearings. If ROC is not giving the report, they simply waive it and pass an order. So, as regards this is concerned, there is no much clarity on that. My personal advice is, what we do is take audited financial statements till that date. Till that date, it's the same auditor, and it's better. We as a liquidator are responsible to handle this assignment. We need to have a clarity as to what is the exact position on liquidation commencement date. If you see the regulations and law, whatever position is on that particular date, say for example, if the claim is in foreign currency, what rate I have to apply? The rate prescribed by RBI on the date of commencement. So I need to know what is the exact balance sheet on that date. It is always advisable to have an audited balance sheet so that a professional certifies that.
So you mean to say we need to take 2 sets of audited financials. One is for the declaration of solvency and one at the time of final report.
Yes. See, firstly, there is no ambiguity on 2 years financial statements. It is 2024 right now. 31st March 24, if the accounts are audited, there's now the accounts would be audited. So there's no issue. 24 and 23 financial statements we have to attach to declaration. 1st April to 5th September, it is advisable to get it audited and attach it.
This is audited because at the time of final order, it's written in the regulations that you have to take audited financials at the time of final filing with the final report when the liquidator files. So that time we have to take the audited financials. So you mean to say 2 sets of audited financials within set of maybe 90 days or 180 days. So that would be quite onerous in that sense, because some people practically they have a solution. They take maybe certified independent certified financials. But if we insist for audited, maybe take for two sets, because at the time final resolution it's mandate we have to take. It's written in the
Yeah.
regulation. So final audited we have to take and file. So that would be covering. So subsequent to this question, like that would be covering 1st April to that final resolution time. Let's say we are filing final resolution in time in December. So 1st April to December audited financials, and then for broken period also we have just audited or independent CA certified financials.
Independent CA certified you can have.
Should be okay now. Okay.
That should be okay.
And at the time of final resolution, it should be complete, like maybe 1st April to this, or maybe LCT commencement date to final resolution.
Sir, I did not find the regulation which you said. The regulation which requires mandates the audit of that particular period. Because if you see the practice at benches, I have 2 orders. In one case, we have filed the accounts which are unaudited for that particular period. 2 years audited financials were there. But for
final
further period,
resolution,
those
for
were not
final-
CA certified.
So for final resolution, I read somewhere for final, when at the time of filing final report, final liquidator report, it says audited financials.
That's a different report. That's a report of liquidation account.
Yeah,
That's
But
an
that's a
independent
liquidation
separate.
account.
Yeah, separate
so
audit.
that needs to be audited, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's an independent chartered accountant outsider. He's totally not related, and that's a liquidation accounts report is there.
So that needs to be audited, na?
Yeah, that has to be audited mandatorily. I'll show you that report. Actually, with the permission of the promoter, I have taken the petition, and I'll show you the petition also, which we had filed. Many petitions are there online available also, and orders of course those are in public domain. So I'll show you that petition also, how we filed that before NCLT. That's a successful voluntary resolution liquidation which we did. Yeah, shall we move ahead? Yes, please allow me to proceed. Subsection 4 talks about notification of to the register of companies and IBBI within 7 days again. 2 important points I wish to highlight over here. Firstly, suppose it is the season of September, June, July, August, September. It is advisable to conduct the AGM first. Prepare your accounts, get the ROC, the company law compliance completed, conduct the AGM, file the returns under Companies Act, and then call an EOGM, extraordinary meeting. And after that, you do this formality. I'll tell you the reason for that. If you see the timeline, MGT 14 in respect of voluntary liquidation, once it is filed, in that case, the status of the company on the master data gets converted into under liquidation.
Yes.
So in that case, AOC for MGT 7 doesn't get accepted. Those form does not get accepted. What will happen? That will be a default in that case. And ROC might trouble at the time of report. It happened in one of the cases wherein ROC insisted that company did not file the returns. So that is first practical tip which is there. Secondly, one more difficulty you face is MGT 14 requires approval, and only then GNL2 can be filed. MGT 14 we file it for special resolution in respect of voluntary liquidation and in respect of appointment of liquidator. GNL2 mentions,
One request, sir.
yeah.
Sir, can you please clarify on the respective forms that need to be filed, like how MGT 14 for
We have a
which
slide
of
for
the
that.
events?
Reporting
Okay,
requirement, I have a slide.
that's great.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
yes. So there also we'll see, and here also I'll quickly clarify because there are only 2 forms. Firstly, MGT 14, why we are filing within 7 days, because IBBI, these norms provide MGT 14 filing of certain resolutions. 7 days per time is prescribed. What we file in this form is MGT 14 is special resolution in respect of voluntary winding up, in respect of appointment of liquidator. And second form, GNL2, we file a declaration of solvency given by our directors. That is filed along with the financial statements, all is annexures, declaration annexures, along with valuation report. That GNL2 goes to ROC. What practical point here is MGT 14 takes at least sometimes 2-3 days for approval. It goes for approval. It is not straight through process. It takes sometimes 15, 20, 30 days. How do we comply with GNL2 within 7 days? Law provides that within 7 days, intimation has to be given. So that's one practical difficulty. GNL2 cannot be filed unless your MGT 14 is approved. So it is always delayed. It is always delayed. We attach a clarification letter to that effect. and we attach a screenshot of MCA website. It states that the SRN need to be approved and which is pending with the authority. So these are the two practical points which I wish to highlight here. Complete your annual filing under Companies Act before filing these forms. Otherwise, your annual filing will get stuck up. And MGT 14, inform your client well in advance that JNL2 won't be into time.
या तो आपको चलना तो चलो मैं आ जाती हूँ.
Sorry, ma'am.
Attachments भी लगानी है ना. Attachment लगानी है.
Yeah, so we move to
नहीं time तो नहीं लगेगा बस attachment ही लगानी है. अच्छा है ना ये?
हमारे क्षेत्र में था जो है.
Sorry, we'll proceed.
हमको भी थोड़ा सा यहाँ से आना चाहिए responsible.
So we on subsection 5, subject to approval of creditors, voluntary liquidation process shall be deemed to, again this wording, subject to approval of creditors under subsection 3, the voluntary liquidation proceedings in respect of shall be deemed to have commenced from this resolution. So subject to approval of creditors, they have said, that means creditors approval is relevant over here. Creditors approval date is the date of commencement in that case. That's why on basis of this, I took a view. Subsection 6 provides for applicability of section 35 to 53. We already saw this on the slide, and again penalty related provisions. Where the affairs, now this is just about filing of petition. Where the affairs of the company are completely wound up. Application to adjudicating authority by the liquidator. Adjudicating authority shall pass the order of dissolution. Within 14 days, ROC has to be informed in Form INC 28. Form INC 28. A typical query comes to that is apply for certified copy and attach a certified copy for that. Again, that's sometimes it's a big exercise. If you're doing a voluntary winding up a bench at Chennai, sometimes it is difficult to get an order immediately, or it takes some time. Sometimes a mere online order can be filed and submitted. Order itself clarifies it. So this is section 59. These 9 subsections are there. We now move to the regulations.
So, at what stage is the liquidator appointed? I'm sorry, I completely don't mind my ignorance.
No worries. The date on which shareholders pass the resolution for his appointment.
Okay, so in the same date on which a special resolution is passed, they also pass a resolution for appointment of a voluntary.
In the same meeting.
Okay, and application only goes after the approval of the creditors.
Application, which application?
For voluntary winding up or voluntary liquidation.
To the NCLT?
Yes.
No, NCLT comes into picture at the end of the show, once your bank account is closed.
Okay, so after everything is settled or set off against each other, that is the time that once it's nullified, you put an application.
Correct. When the affairs of the company are completely wound up, subsection 7, completely wound up, liquidator will have to make an application and adjudicating authority will pass an order based upon that of dissolution order. And last subsection 9 says within 14 days, this order in INC 28 has to be filed with the ROC. So even if you have missed this, we have a separate file wherein, like I said, a bullet point and a quick summary of detailed presentation. Summarization the process at a glance, and I'll be sharing that presentation or everything, all material with you for your benefit.
Sir, we can appoint the liquidator name the liquidator in the same special resolution which is for the voluntary liquidation.
I have seen once or twice such resolution. What practice we follow is we pass separate resolutions, sir. One resolution for voluntary winding up and second resolution for appointment of liquidator, wherein we mention the terms and conditions and mainly the remuneration of liquidator. How much remuneration we are paying, that has to be mentioned in the resolution.
Correct.
So
but
at that meeting only these 2 resolutions get passed.
Can we do it in the same resolution also?
I think.
Or is there any bar? Legally,
there is no bar, but it is advisable to keep it separate only.
Okay. Thank you.
There is one practical aspect like regarding bank account. So that voluntary liquidation bank account. So once the BR gets passed by director doing the solvency declaration. So does it require for closure of? Should we also pass for closure of bank account and opening of new bank account under the voluntary liquidation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That should also be passed.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I said is, when you appoint a liquidator, terms of his appointment are mentioned in that. That is what powers, duties he will exercise. One of the clause, when we see the petition, I'll show you the petition in the resolution. We mention that liquidator what power he has. One of the powers is operate the bank account of the company. So that resolution helps.
Because once liquidator gets appointed, he would be having exclusive power to operate the bank account. Sole exclusive
Correct,
power.
sir.
Okay.
And so the liquidator's fees are as per the chart under the regulation, or is that, that can be a negotiation point between the liquidator and the company concerned?
I did not get the question.
The charges or the fees that
Fees?
have to be
Totally
notified.
liberty is there. That can be negotiated. That can be negotiated.
Okay, and there's no specific duration. Once the liquidation, the voluntary liquidation approval is received from the COC members, from the creditors rather, there's no such time barring for selling of the assets or setting off the assets against the creditors' liabilities, right?
For see, this being IBC, there is a timeline for each and everything. For selling of asset, there is no timeline, but within what date your liquidation has to be completed. For that there is a timeline, and I have in my presentation I have a tabular chart of it from zero. So it is mainly 270 days or 90 days as the case may be. We'll discuss that in detail.
Okay.
So timeline is there for this process. Wherever timelines are there, those need to be added to. Once we go through these regulations, you will get much clarity on it. So yes, now these are the regulations. Sometimes I've seen professionals, sometimes mistakenly they refer to that liquidation regulations. So those are not there in case of voluntary liquidation. These are the regulations, IBBI voluntary liquidation regulations 2017, which need to be referred to. 41 regulations are there. Some one or two things are repetitive, which are there in the section. Otherwise, these give a clear-cut picture as to where and how voluntary liquidation or voluntary winding up functions, or it goes. These rules are notified from 1st of April 2017. They are called as IBBI voluntary liquidation regulations. Definitions, I have highlighted those definitions which are important in my view. Code, that is okay. Contributory means a person, means a member of a company, partner of limited liability partner, or any other person liable to contribute to the assets of the company in event of its liquidation. So he's termed as contributory. Contributory, the definition was also there under the old Companies Act 1956. This definition is quite different from that. But it is mainly the members, partners, and those who are liable to pay. And obviously, if surplus is received, who are liable to receive something out of the liquidation pursuant as per section 53. The last share goes to them. Then stakeholders means the stakeholders entitled to proceed for sale of liquidation assets under section 53. So stakeholders means those waterfall mechanism 8 category of persons which are there. Those are stakeholders. Initiation of liquidation. Regulation 3. So what are the conditions? This is like repetitive declaration from majority of directors or designate partners. Here they have provided for LLP and other forms of entities. Companies, they have provided in the section. So the similar provision that affidavit declaration verified by an affidavit, that declaration will 2 years financial statements will have to be attached. And again, the declaration will state that they have made full inquiry into the state of affairs of the corporate person. Either there are no dates or the dates are they are able to pay out of the assets realized. So there is a solvency. Again, there is no intention to defraud the creditors. Sufficient person provision has been made to meet the obligations in future. I'll discuss this also in detail when we discuss the critical questions at the end. That whether the company, if litigation or something is pending or some contingent liability is pending, and still whether the dissolution order can be passed by NCLT, whether that is possible or not, we'll discuss at later stage. But sufficient provision has been made to meet the obligation as out of pending mentioned in. Declaration shall be accompanied by 2 years audited financial statements. Valuation report, we already saw this. And here a new point, disclosure of pending proceedings or assessment before statutory authorities pending litigations. So those details are to be given in the declaration. See, whenever creditors are there, there is also a requirement that this declaration should also contain the list of creditors along with their name, their details, and the amount which is payable to them. So that declaration will prescribe for the list also. Now, within 4 weeks, we saw this in the section. Within 4 weeks, a special majority or regular majority, simple majority in case of occurrence of certain event prescribed in the articles happens.
Sandeep ji, I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
For this declaration of solvency, which you draw at a board meeting, you also have to present list of creditors because you have to get the consent from them within 7 days.
Correct.
So the date on which you provide this list of creditor, on the basis of which financial statement, as of the date of liquidation commencement date, or the board meeting where you have approved a declaration of solvency?
We take the date of declaration, the board meeting at which it is approved. We normally insist that declaration date should be the board meeting or at the most 1 or 2 days difference. So we plan in such a way that the declaration are placed before the board meeting only. So the cutoff date is the date of board meeting, the declaration date.
And
What's your
if post thereafter there are any creditors or anything is booked, then how we should address that?
See, for that, there is a provision for filing a claim. We'll come to that. So some claim are required to be filed in for prescribed form, Form B, Form C, E, D, based upon the category. Liquidator will take those claim. And this being voluntary liquidation, there's no question of haircut over here. In voluntary liquidation, there is no haircut. So whatever liability arises, that has to be paid.
So we should not insist that you draw accounts up to the cutoff of liquidation commencement, because
we do insist that, but this is a practical difficulty. Say, suppose today I am giving a declaration as a director. How I can give a declaration of amount which is 28 days later? What practically we ensure is that all precaution is taken and no new liability comes out of it. If at all it comes, it will come through filing of claims only. But
yes,
you got my point. Suppose after 28 days, law prescribes after 4 weeks, I have to conduct an EOGM, which is my liquidation commencement date or creditors approval date is there. But today I cannot include a figure. How can I include what will be there after 28 days?
no, that is fine. That is understood. But
Yeah.
if there is a gap between board meeting and shareholders meeting,
yeah, which is
then
normally
whether the liquidator should insist on drawing up the accounts up to the liquidation commencement date and present.
Any which ways we are preparing that. Like sir and we discussed a while ago that till that date accounts are required to be audited, not audited, a CA certified or accounts need to be taken. It is advisable to. So any which ways we are preparing it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yes, so within 4 weeks, EOGM to be taken, and then again creditors representing shall approve this we already saw in 59. The corporate person shall notify the ROC and board IBBI. Here I forgot to tell you, but again there is a separate side for that. IP1 form has to be filed with IBBI. So we do the simultaneous filing. What we do is we go to the IBBI website. We create a client profile. In the login, a client profile is created, a company is created, a company is added to profile. And once that is added, it takes some time, 1 day time it takes. IBBI has approves it. And after that, I am allowed to submit IP1. It asks for a resolution by which you are appointed. A copy of resolution has to be attached and that has to be submitted to IBBI. That can be viewed on IBBI 14 GNL2 with ROC within 7 days and IP1 form, which is there, which has to be filed with the IBBI. Immediately after the newspaper advertisement, the public announcement also has to be uploaded on the IBBI website. Through that login only, it shows the public notice.
So, just a second, just need the clarity. Exactly when this IP1 form need to be filed with IBBI and what is the timeline? Is there any timeline?
Yeah, 7 days. See, the corporate person shall notify the registrar and the board about the resolution under sub-regulation 1 to liquidate the corporate person within 7 days of resolution or subsequent approval of creditors as the case may be. So 7 days, within 7 days, what we do is we immediately do the ROC filing, MGT 14 and GL2. Simultaneously, we go to IBBI website. Our profile is there in which a company needs to be added. That profile is created, the scene and everything is mentioned. And after that, 1 day takes for approval. Then in your assignments, it gets added, in which we file IP1, to which we attach the resolution for appointment.
And VL1 and all other forms need to be filed later.
Sorry?
VL1, that new forms that
yeah,
VL1
I have covered in my presentation, that also I have covered. In fact, we are also filing certain VL1, VL2, VL3, VL4. So in reporting requirement, there is a separate slide for it that we need to file additionally now. That is with a view to track the voluntary winding up assignment. In fact, when your renewal is due, 30th September is the last date for filing that. But my AFA is due for renewal in mid-September. So they have insisted me that file all VL1 forms, and then that's a condition for renewal of AFA. So that we have to file. Any which ways we'll be completing that in 1 or 2 days. So VL1, VL2, VL3, VL4, as per applicability, those also need to be filed. If time permits, I'll log in to the website and I'll show you those forms. Or I have taken screenshots also of those forms. So the declaration under regulation shall list each, this we already discussed. The declaration has to be listed out, pay all the debts which are there. And then the provision for preservation of records. This is very important. This is very, very important. My first voluntary winding up, where I got it from, of course, my professional colleague, chartered accountant firm. And they said that company has a record of 450 files, 450 box files. And the law says, now this clarity was not there earlier. This has been brought in September 21, sorry, September 22. They took a view that it is liquidator's responsibility to maintain these 400 files. But that was difficult. See, there are agencies which preserve the records. They provide these services. So we went into an agreement with that agency. What liquidator is required to maintain, they have now clearly prescribed what record we wish to maintain. We have to maintain, that is pertaining to liquidation process. Right from our appointment and entire exercise what we have done, that records are to be preserved for 3 years physical form, 8 years in electronic form. That is clear. So now they have added a declaration shall provide for corporate person that he has made a provision for preservation of his records after dissolution. So after dissolution, where these 400 files will go? If the size of company is big, so they have to make a provision. They have to make an advance provision for, they pay the advance rent, enter into an agreement, maybe for 8 years. There are 2 agencies. Firstly, they maintain the record also. And secondly, they also convert this record into electronic mode. So those services need to be additionally hired. And to that effect, a declaration has to be given.
Physical records can be stored in electronic form for 8 years. That is allowed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So 3 years mandatorily physical record have to be maintained.
Yeah.
And 8 years you have to maintain electronically.
So for company also that applies, like 3 years manual and physical, and then subsequent 5 years.
Yes. Yes. For us and company, both are same requirement.
Okay.
Now, effect of liquidation. Effect of liquidation is that it is deemed to cease to carry on the business except for the beneficial winding up of the company. So from the date the resolution is passed, it is deemed that the company ceases to carry on the business. Appointment of liquidator. A corporate person shall appoint a liquidator. Earlier, there was no clarity as to whether the liquidator can be replaced, but yes, absolutely he can. And insolvency professional is under an obligation to inform this to IBBI about his appointment. There may be several reasons for replacement. Firstly, a company is not getting desired services. Secondly, insolvency professional has lost his independence. It may be possible. There is a criteria, eligibility criteria is there. We'll be moving to that regulation 6, that he has to be an independent person. He should not be related. See, many times it happens. We have faced this situation wherein one ma'am is there here, Pune. She practices as a practicing company secretary. She said, my client is there, to which I suggested voluntary winding up. I've been providing services for 10 years now. They want to close down this company. I've been doing annual filing for this. So there, she cannot act as a liquidator, although she's an IP. So you have to have some different IP for that. So eligibility criteria, what should be the eligibility test? He should be such person, independent obviously, should be able to be appointed as an independent director. There is all those criteria in 149 subsection 6 which are given to an independent director. Those should be applicable to them. Again, not related, not an employer proprietor, not a secretarial auditor, not a legal firm, consulting firm, of whose 10% revenue, more than 10% revenue is received from that entity in last 3 years. So these are all disqualification or eligibility requirements. Firstly, it should be an IP. And then these are the qualifications which are there. A liquidator shall disclose the existence of pecuniary or other relationship as soon as he's become aware of it. Then he shall not continue, definitely. Liquidator's remuneration shall form part of liquidation cost. What are the filing requirement? They have deleted this word. In my PPT also I have deleted this annual status report was there. Very nicely they have received, deleted this. Otherwise that was a practical difficulty. Taking into consideration the 90 days period, how would a person place annual report if the liquidation period is for 90 days only? So they have status report now, they have made the wording. Reporting requirement is preliminary report within 45 days from the date of commencement, status report, annually if the matter gets delayed. We'll discuss this in detail. Minutes of consultation if applicable. We saw stakeholders. Liquidator may take inputs from stakeholders, and those can be minutized. Those have to be minutized, and those are not binding on the liquidator. It's just suggestion which is taken or consultation which is taken. And so that record has to be maintained, and final report upon completion of the affairs that has to be filed. So these are reporting requirement. We have a bit descriptive and elaborative reporting requirement slide on the presentation. So let's complete these regulations quickly.
There are no consultations, like if the company has no other than cash balance and something, so then also like some consultation and all has to be, or nil report has to be filed.
No, sir, no. Nil record need not be maintained. At least in case of minutes of consultation, nothing will be applicable. Now, what records are required to be maintained? They have specifically prescribed for that. There is a big list of it. We'll go to that list. Around, I think, more than 19-20 registers are there which are required to be maintained. Apart from that, additionally also IP can maintain. But here, minutes of consultation, if it is not applicable, that need not be maintained.
If there's no operation, then need not file. Okay.
Yes, it is applicable only where minutes of consultations are prepared, otherwise not. So if at all application is received, this record can be produced to the concerned who are interested stakeholders who want to verify then. Preliminary report within 45 days of commencement of liquidation. What are things are required to be covered in preliminary report? Capital structure, estimates of assets and liabilities, then books of corporate person are not reliable, then estimates based upon the or otherwise available, intends to make a further inquiry in any matter as regards preferential transaction, extortion credit transaction different creditors or something like that. So to that effect, what he wished to make the inquiry as such. Proposed plan and strategy, and estimated cost and timeline. So these all things he has to send. This preliminary report has to be filed to the shareholders, not to IBBI, not to ROC, to the members. Sorry, corporate person. It has to be sent to the corporate person. Again, ultimately that means the promoters of the company. So corporate person, 45 days, these details, this report has to be. Registers and books of accounts and registers, like we discussed. Liquidator shall have them completed if those are incomplete. And cash book, ledger, bank balance, these are the records which required to be maintained. A big list. These are required to be maintained. Again, many times I'll tell you, apart from this register, what we maintain is the although that's a typical practice of maintaining inward-outward register, but it is advisable too, because correspondence is very important in this process. It appears very simple, but practically it is huge volume of work. So at what time you need what communication, what reference, especially while dealing with authorities. In one of our cases, Provident Fund authorities. Dissolution order has been passed, and yesterday I have received a claim and that claim has already been paid. So paid challans I have attached, and I requested them for again assessment and stating that send us calculation on what basis you have asked for this amount, because this amount we have already paid. We have a challan. So these things happen. So we also have to inform that intimations were given after dissolution. Again, dissolution intimations were given, and in spite of that, CIRP claim they have filed in voluntary winding. So that's difficulties there. Yes, registers, forms are indicated in Schedule 2. At the end of the rules, those are there. Liquidator shall keep receipt of all the payments made and expenses made by him. Obviously, all the payments online only.
Just one practical aspect to that. Like if in case of group company where the company which is under liquidation has no employee, and for compliance purpose or accounting purpose, this is done by some shared resource or some salary and all the company used to pay. So even after liquidation, can this process continue till the final dissolution, like for 5-6 months maybe, that shared resource can be paid? And will this form part of liquidation expenses or this regular payments?
Sir, I didn't get about payment. To whom payment you're talking about?
there are one or two persons for compliance purpose, like for accounting during the liquidation process, for accounting or compliance, filing TDS return,
Okay,
GST returns, and
okay.
all. So there is no employee in the company as on liquidation date, but there is a shared resource for that cost is reimbursed to a group company.
Okay.
So can this practice continue even under liquidation for 5-6 months?
No.
And
No, I got your question. I'll tell you two things on this. If payment is of recurring nature, there is a clarity in rules. Any claim or any payment has to be only up to the date of EOGM, not after that. So liquidation commencement, after liquidation commencement, no payment will go. And second thing I'll tell you, in one of my cases, there was an in-house company secretary. A company having a paid-up capital of 10 crores or more is required to hire a in-house company secretary. So her salary used to go from this company. In your course, in your case, it is not employee. It is at least some third-party payment is there. Sir, any claim is there. Any claim, any payment of recurring nature will have to be made only up to the date of whether it may be rent, it may be interest, it may be consultation fees, it may be auditors. Any fees will be only up to the date of liquidation commencement date. After that, no claim can stand.
no, it's not
No
about
payment
claim.
allowed after that.
It's about the recurring nature of work, because after liquidation LCT date also, that person has to do compliance work, GST and all. Or because either liquidator will hire some person for accounting purpose, or that person who is handling previously can do.
Actually,
So
in my slide there is a one more precaution to be taken. I think 12th number point is there where I have mentioned is that better not to hire the old guys. The previous consultants better avoid hiring them because IBBI disciplinary. If you see the cases, those who are engaged with the corporate person should not be hired actually.
it's a
Here,
voluntary liquidation. So
here,
even
here
in that,
IPs make mistakes, sir. Here IPs make mistake. They commit this mistake that same auditor is continued or same firm is continued. That kind of, if you see the IBBI website, the disciplinary orders, in fact, 2 days back, 3 days back, also we had a session, one of the sessions where one of the faculties was, he insisted and he told this point that same consultants, if you carry forward, it is not advisable. There is a regulation to that effect. We'll come to that.
there's a bar, or it's only advisability matter.
There is a bar, sir. There is a bar. We'll read it out. It is there in the regulations.
Okay, please, sir.
We'll read it carefully, whether it is only applicable to auditors. But overall, it is advisable to, I understand because see this regulation, engaging professionals only. 11.2, the liquidator shall not engage professional under, firstly, let's read subsection 1. Liquidator may engage a professional to assist him in discharging his duties, obligations, and functions for reasonable remuneration, and such remuneration shall be part of liquidation cost. Now, whatever is after liquidation commencement date, that's part of liquidation cost. Liquidator shall not engage a professional under sub-regulation 1 who is a relative or related party of a corporate person or has served as an auditor to the corporate person at any time during 5 years preceding the liquidation commencement date. So this is, if this appointment is outside the purview of this, then that consultant can continue. But many cases, instances, it has happened that same auditor is providing GST services, taxation services later on, or few of them have committed a mistake or attempted to commit mistake. That same auditor have given the liquidation audited accounts also. So that is dangerous. That is risky.
Right.
So as
In
per
fact, it's
regulation
easier to
11,
continue with the same set of auditors because when it comes to all these past demand notices of income tax, which are a few years back, and you don't even have any clue as to what is happening, and the erstwhile promoter is also, of course, not assisting.
I
So
agree
it's
with you,
best to
ma'am.
continue with those kind of professionals rather than, hiring somebody, paying them an equivalent sum and not being able to answer them.
I
And
agree with
losing
you.
on some of the tax credits which could otherwise, be a beneficial to the CD. Unless, you want to invite a liability which is not counted or calculated.
Correct. Ma'am, what we do in this case, I'll tell you. We do take assistance if some past matter is there. Okay, something related to past. It's not that the auditor has seized and he has gone away. We do require their help always, definitely. So they do help in preparing the accounts. They do give help in handover of the process. But definitely the past auditor cannot be the subsequent auditor, the liquidation account auditor. These are totally, it's a cutoff. It is something rare phenomena happening in the life of the company. We were also asked by one big audit firm, Big Four audit firm only. They had asked, Sandeep, whether we are required to file our ADT3 or do I need to resign? So these type of practical questions are there. So of course, ADD3 filing was not possible because, like we said, master data changes and no other form is allowed to be filed apart from GNL2 and INC 28. So no question of filing and no question of resignation in that case. So we do take assistance for past records and past events, but certainly past auditor cannot provide services post liquidation commencement date. We have to have some new professional only.
Past auditor cannot provide services, or past auditor cannot be reappointed as an auditor.
He can, there's no question of appointment of re-auditor. He cannot be. Which audit we do in liquidation commencement?
That audit,
liquidation amount.
Liquidation amount, yeah.
Correct. It's a liquidation account audit. That is the day you open the account till the day you make the shareholders payment. So that audit definitely he cannot do. He has to be outsider only. And liquidator shall not engage any professional under sub-regulation 1 who is a relative, is a related party to the corporate person, or has served as an auditor to the corporate person at any time during 5 preceding years since commencement. So liquidator definitely, see, I told you, this is a common mistake which a liquidator inadvertently makes. He is definitely morally, logically, he's absolutely correct. But law puts a bar on that.
Okay, so it can't be a related party, related company, and
Absolutely.
auditor also has to be
Totally new
different.
team. Totally new team.
But I think this is more of a from the intent of like companies coming from CIRP to this thing. Like if it's only voluntary liquidation,
yes,
I think these provisions are made in the light of.
Correct. Agree with you, sir. But disciplinary actions are taken against IPs where this mistakes has committed, that they have hired the same auditor is continued, or same person is certifying it. See, VL1, VL2, VL3, VL4 forms are also for monitoring the entire process. This is a check process. IBBI, they ensure the quality or the compliance of it. So through this, these cases come up. They ask for further clarification. In all my 9 voluntary winding ups, or rather 11, 3 are in pipeline, we haven't filed them yet. But in all our cases, those who are handling voluntary winding up, they'll agree with me. We received an Excel sheet from IPA, ICSI IIP, wherein we are asked for entire details, that what is the stage of your case. So we fill in that and we'll keep on informing. So there is a constant watch which is going on.
That's agreed, sir. But don't know what's the logic of IBBI for getting the forms for the past company also to be filed, for which the order has been filed, the form has been filed. So that's a tedious task for us that has been created by. That should be not retrospective, no? That should be
prospective.
Right. So, are you, like, have you done with the filing of all the forms?
Ma'am, in case of 3 companies, we have filed all the forms.
But sir, we just received a mail where the IBBI is saying that V1 and V2 is applicable only when there is a change in the liquidator or there is a delay. This V3 form is required to be filed.
My case delay is there, so that we have filed along with contributors. Minutes is an attachment to that form.
Right. Previously, we were not having clarity, so we have filed for certain companies with a clarification letter instead of the minutes that there is no delay. So, sir, is it we have just received and we haven't worked forward? So, is it taking the V3 form without filing V1 and V2?
V3
Any
form
idea on this?
See, I'll tell you how the linking is. V1 it is taking, V2 it is taking, V4 it doesn't take unless you file V3. The linking is that way.
No, sir. V3 also the question is prompted. You cannot proceed unless V2 is filed, VL2 is filed.
Okay. So
And
maybe
in
in my
cases
case, I
where
have
there
done the
is no
submission.
delay, so how can we file that VL2?
Correct. See, maybe in what
No, but where there is no delay in the time.
Oh, I believe in that case, madam, like we have done, we have attached the clarification letter in spite of the minutes, clarifying that there is that the process has been completed within the time frame prescribed under this, and accordingly, there is no such meeting being
Instead
conducted.
of minutes, you attach that, but then date of meeting, what you have mentioned?
Date of board meeting we have mentioned.
No.
We haven't mentioned any date for that contributories meeting.
Because in VL2 it asks for the date of meeting of the contributories or the stakeholders committee, whatever is there. So in that, how do you put it then? How do you proceed with that form basically when there is no delay? Because all the other forms are stuck up because of this. Wherever there is a delay, there we have to attach, that is fine.
Correct.
And also the contradiction in this case is wherever there is a delay, the cases that have started in say 21, 22 or 23, but for some reason they are pending. And now in 24, there has been this timeline stipulated for 90 days or 270 days. So that is another issue.
Challenge.
What is to be considered and whether this timeline of 90 and 270 days will be applicable in cases which have started prior to this notification. Because for those cases, we are following the annual status report. Because earlier the prescribed time was 12 months, and if within 12 months the liquidation is not completed, then we have to call the annual meeting of the stakeholders and do the needful.
Correct.
So
Agree
for
with you,
such
ma'am.
cases, we are filing for annual meetings and not for 90 and 270 days.
Correct.
So that clarity is also not given in the new circular
It will
or in
come,
anywhere.
definitely that will come. In fact, what we did yesterday, we filed the form sequentially. First 1, 2, 3. So 4, just we wanted to click and see what it is. So there it gave an
No.
error that fill the form 3
It's
first.
just contained the details of the order, nothing much. Ma'am, I would like to clarify that in V2, I'm just checking that there it's asked for the date of meeting.
Yes.
It's not written that the date of contributory is meeting.
No, but
So we
if
have
the form
mentioned the
is
voluntary liquidation commencement date, the EGM date we have mentioned. It's
okay.
asked for the date of the meeting. It's not saying the date of the
It
contributory
is not
meeting.
saying, but it is intended for that. No, which meeting minutes we are attaching, that will be the
But
date of
certain
meeting.
like in that case, though, we will not be able to conclude these forms.
Correct.
We
Yeah.
have attached the letter giving them the clarification. We have
Got it.
specified the reason also.
Yeah,
That
even
is how we have concluded.
yeah, even we have put emails to IBBI, but there is no response from IBBI for this particular matter.
They'll definitely revert. They have to address this. This is a common
No,
problem.
it's past 8-10 days, more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And
constantly
no one
they
is
are
answering the telephone numbers also over there. So it is like
and constantly reminders they are given that you have to file this.
they are giving reminders, but there is no resolution on the queries.
Acha,
So it is difficult to
so
file.
is there any timeline for the filing of these forms also?
30th September.
30th September, yes.
Otherwise, they will penalize or this will be all paid up forms there with delays.
Okay. Thank you for this update. I was not updated on this.
No, it
Thank
is
you so much.
mentioned in that, but again, the question remains for these technical issues.
Let's wait, ma'am. I think they'll revert on this.
Thank you.
We have no option then to take the clarity on that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, going back to the Regulation 12, consultation with stakeholders. Like we discussed this, if at all required, the consultation will take place with those persons who are stakeholders, means those persons who are mentioned in section 53 of IBC. Extortionate transactions, exorbitant. What extortionate credit transaction is? When exorbitant payment has been made, unconcizable, unreasonable payment is made. Public announcement table format is there. These are all format now, process wise. There is a typical tabular format. When I show you the petition, we'll go through that public announcement also, but this is a typical format. What care has to be taken? See, what practice we follow here is we have 6-7 newspaper agencies. Sometimes it happens that those same newspaper, the quotation is different. Obviously, our intention is same size of advertisement at lower cost in same newspaper. So my experience is 6-7 agencies are there, 3 to sure are there. Although there is no requirement, we take comparative quote to get a cost-effective quotation and from all the agencies. And obviously the size of the advertisement and the cost is lowest, we go with that agency. Obviously the paper is same. What one more point need to be taken care of is registered office where it is situated, principal place of business where it is there, and any other place which is believed where the corporate person was active. There the advertisement has to be published. One in English language, another is vernacular language. on the website of corporate person, if available, on the website of IBBI, that is there. Public announcements on IBBI websites are there. This is about advertisement. Contents they have given in the format. We'll go through this content when we see the petition. Proof of claim. Every person who files a claim has to submit a proof. Categories like CIRP only. Only the thing is that form might differ. Here, operational creditor, form B, the claim has to be filed. In all these claims, there's a common factor, that is information utility wherever applicable, i.e. information utility data has to be submitted. If that has been uploaded. So proof of default or records on IU has to be submitted. Otherwise, each claimant or each person having operational creditor is there, then he may provide for contract, the purchase order, the invoice, the emails, messages sometimes, financial statement showing me as debtors. So court order, arbitral award maybe. So something like that, which is in support of claim. Then form C in case of financial creditors.
Will the information utility be NESL only?
That's the only information utility right now. NESL is only there. And for section 9 petition also, it is mandatory. They are raising a query now, at least Mumbai NCLT, that NESL record of default has to be filed. It's a login based service. You have to create a login. Some 60 rupees charges is there, per transaction charges are there. We have to go and upload that. And information utility, NESL, that can be used.
Okay.
Then other relevant documents, financial contract, loan agreement, charge related documents. Bank, there's no question of, so evidence, lot of evidence is available. All these records. Then workman, they have given a liberty. What point need to be noted here is, firstly, workman individual claim, form D, series of lot of numerous workmans are there. Form E, authorized representative can file. And most important point here is, even if the workman has not filed a claim, but his record in the records of corporate data, corporate person, then in that case, that claim has to be admitted. Because workman, possible that they are illiterate, they don't know that liquidator has to collect the data, collect this data and admit the claim even if the claim is not filed. Maybe what he can do is he can contact and he can get it filled. See, my personal experience is it has happened that a claim was filed in a wrong form. Format was wrong. I replied to that and I requested them to file a correct form. And then the claim was filed in correct form. There are a number of judgments of tribunal, appellate tribunal, wherein format is not important. What is important is the content or the annexures which are there. But this corrective action can be taken. Straight away rejecting and going ahead, definitely not advisable, at least in case of voluntary winding up. Otherwise, a voluntary winding up is at toss. I'll also share my practical experiences, few difficulties which I had shared regarding claim. Of course, at the end, we'll wrap up with this presentation. Anybody needs a break or shall we continue? 5-7 minutes break. If you, I don't need any break, I can continue.
You may continue. It's interesting.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We'll continue, and I have lot more to show and lot more experiences to share. Because I personally am passionate about these assignments. Although those are liquidation, but still we play a valuing role into it. So I have several points to give or several points to highlight in this based upon my experience. Claims by other stakeholders. Form F is there, Schedule 1. Again, information utility, whatever claims are there, based upon that claims are filed. Proving the security interest. Then security creditor has to prove their security interest, that how it is registered, either through ROC charge or SARSAI registration is there. The registration documents can be taken on record. Then bill of exchange that shall be produced, promissory notes can be produced. This is about, again, claim, submission of claim. If at all upon verification of claims, liquidator files sounds that certain additional information required. Like I said, that a lady was there and she incorrectly submitted the form. Many a times, even yesterday, PF notice had come in which she had, the madam has submitted CIRP form. So these things happen. In that case, we can guide them and take the correct form or ask for further record. Claimant shall bear the cost of proving. So cost of proving, definitely he will play. Sometimes cost incurred by liquidator, then liquidation cost, it will form part of. I have never experienced this, but what I understand by this logic is, say, suppose some certified copies are to be obtained about court order or something to ensure whether his claim is correct. or some ROC website search has to be taken to ensure whether his balance sheet shows that. This kind of cost will be forming part of liquidation cost. Determination of amount of claim. Liquidator has to estimate best judgment where it is not possible to determine the amount. So best possible judgment he has to exercise. Debt in foreign exchange, we already saw this. Upon commencement date, official exchange declared by Reserve Bank of India has to be based upon that the claim has to be derived. Periodical payments. This, sir, your question, to address your question, in the case of rent, interest, or such other payments of periodical nature, a person may claim only for any amount due unpaid to the liquidation commencement date. So after that, no periodical payment can be made. In one of my cases, rent was paid by the directors, continuously paid by the directors. And in one of the cases, rent receipt came till date. He was not aware. Inadvertently, he sent the till date. Commencement happened. Maybe 2-3 months have gone, and the landlord sent a invoice that rent receipt are pending. So I requested him that please modify your invoices. The cutoff date would be liquidation commencement date only. So obviously they modified it. After that, legally it is not allowed to pay. And one more factor, one point is there where I have mentioned that in precautions, that the rent deposit is there. Generally, liquidator should not forget that to collect that and realize that deposit. Demat account deposit is there, rent deposit is there, security deposit wherever we have kept, that need to be realized.
So if you hadn't paid your rent, aren't there other essential services also, like electricity bills and other essential services that will of course continue till the time the liquidation is completed?
Yes, that continues. Correct.
So then how do you actually pay them? Are they not a part of they form liquidation cost?
Yeah, later on they become liquidation cost. I have experienced this. My first voluntary winding up again, and we took almost one of the reasons for getting the assignment delay was also MSCB surrender. So we surrendered the electricity meter and the bill, but every month they used to send the invoice, and surrender took almost 8-9 months. They were not agreeing only. Surrender only was not happening. They were not giving the effect only. Actually, surrender did not happen. The officer advised then in that case, you get the meter transferred in the new tenant's name. So that we made an assignment agreement and that was taken on the record. But till that time, we were paying the rent. Initially, it was for prior to liquidation period, and later on, it was part of liquidation cost.
Because see, if you were to keep even those 400 files that you had collected, the box files,
Correct.
you would still need space for it. The rent
Correct.
would still continue for that particular storage.
Correct. That's a part of liquidation
So,
cost.
okay.
We did pay that.
All right.
Date payable at future. Now this calculation also I have never done, but in short, I'll tell you what has happened. Suppose a date is payable in future, and what I am doing is some interest is payable on that. So I have done a discounting to it. The rest of the period is there for which I have not paid the rent and I have reduced the claim. Any person may move for a claim whose payment is not yet due for liquidation commencement date and is entitled to distribution the same. So it is not due. Future payment is there, but that has to be paid. Then the reduction formula is there and that has to be reduced. And N is the period beginning from the date of distribution and ending on the period which the payment was due. So liquidation commencement date till the period of his payment was proposed. That factor is discounted. Practically, I have never came across this situation, but whatever I have advised till now is settle the claims. If you smoothly want to close down the company, don't get into, there's no question of negotiation or no haircut in this case. But this provision is there. I have never used this provision.
So if you have to prepay any of the loans and liabilities,
yeah,
do they not charge something extra? So if you take it to the liquidation process, probably you do not have to pay those upfront fees which are additional.
Okay. Right. So government security interest rate yield is there, and the period N is for the period which is future period. So by that, then the amount stands reduced. Mutual credit set off, that is allowed. They have given an example, X owes 100 and corporate person owes 70, 30 can be given effect to. Verification of claims, verify the claim submitted within 30 days from the last date. Ongoing basis, these claims are to be updated. List of stakeholders is the responsibility again to be prepared. And what we cover into it, that's the amount which is admitted, secured, amount rejected, reasons for rejection, within 45 days from the last date of claims. If there are no claims received, in that case, this 45 days becomes 15 days. I have only 15 days. Here they mentioned. So this has to be within 15 days if no claims are filed. This has to be updated from time to time and modified from time to time. Claims are updated on a regular basis. At least CRP, I know they update on IBBI website regular basis. Manner of sale can be anyhow. It is up to the corporate person. The shareholders pass a resolution and they decide as to how the payment manner of payment has to be. It may be through manner of sale has to be. It may be through private contract or it may be through auction services, or it may be directly distribution of asset also. Surprising, a very interesting order of Delhi NCLT bench I have saved for our reference, wherein immobile property was directly distributed. I'll take you to that order once we reach over there. Recovery of
So do
money.
you mind repeating this last regulation?
Yeah, manner of sale. So how the asset are to be sold? There are fixed assets, valuation has taken place, and how do I sell them as a liquidator? So there may be a methodology, a private contract also. Let's assume there is a land and that has to be sold. So suppose adjacent area only, or besides there is factory and that person is willing to take that factory. Who is the best person to give highest rate over there? I can negotiate, and in the best of interest and maximization of value of asset, I can say have a contract with him and I can sell the land to him. That is possible, or through tendering process also. If the shareholders or members want the tendering process in a fair and transparent manner, there are tendering services. You as an IP must be receiving emails, e-tendering services and all. So they charge on the basis of unsuccessful tender and successful tender. They display the tender and they also mark how many views had taken place. So on that auction or tendering, e-tendering process, e-auction process, the sale can be possible. So that's the manner in which the assets can be sold.
So is there GST applicable on these kind, or stamp duty applicable on land deals and fixed asset transactions?
Stamp duty, so definitely it is applicable.
And GST? Because in case of liquidation and CIRP.
But yes, GST will also be applicable. TDS also will be applicable.
Okay.
GST anyways, yes, it is applicable. Benefit will be lost because this is a stage where you might come to a stage where GST registration has been surrendered. Because simultaneously that process has to be carried out. Or
So
taking that into consideration, we have to forecast that way. GST consultant will advise that way that, okay, you're going to do this transaction, do this first and then go for surrender of GST.
Or and when you're making a land transaction sale, isn't there TCS applicable? So will that also credit be lost under income tax?
TCS?
Yes.
Sorry, what is TCS?
It is like nowadays, whenever you're making a land transaction or a flat transaction, you have to actually prepay TDS, and by the buyer, basically.
Okay. I think 1%, right?
1% or yeah, some percentage.
Yeah, 1%. I remember. Yes. We recently
So
brought on
that benefit will also be lost, or can that be availed as an income tax credit for refund?
See, if credit is available, that benefit can be taken. Otherwise, that is lost. Let's take my example only. I send an invoice of, say, voluntary liquidation. I send an invoice of 5 lakhs rupees. GST comes to 90,000 rupees. Now, normally I have seen this benefit is lost. This GST benefit they don't get. Yes, legal compliance has to be done. TDS returns are required to be filed. Our fees is also there on which TDS is deducted. And that TDS returns are also required to be filed.
Actually surrender, you told GST certificate or any factory license or any operational this thing which company is continuing, is it to be specifically surrendered or it's auto surrendered by the resolution order?
That has to be specifically surrendered. And it's a big headache. It's a trouble. At some places it is smooth. At some places it is trouble.
PAN, GST, all needs to be specifically surrendered.
PAN and TAN, what happens is they don't get surrendered. After a dissolution order, we have to make an application to income tax authority. PAN, TAN doesn't get surrendered unless company is dissolved. GST, MACB, professional tax, PTEC, PTRC, IE code, LEI number, import export license, Again, so many licenses are there. When we take up the assignment, we prepare an Excel sheet and we do a due diligence as to what license, like from Shop Act license or Udyam Aadhar is there, even whether there are trademarks or not, IPR is there. So all these numbers and licenses are there. Those are required to be surrendered. This process goes on simultaneously.
One question.
Sorry?
One
GST,
question from my side.
GST also needs to be surrendered. He told
Yes, sir. GST has to be surrendered specifically.
But it's similar to PAN 10, like it's indirect tax. So I think it should continue till, because services might be billed.
Yeah, I had taken the help of GST experts in that. But what I remember is before my liquidation order, GST number was surrendered. There is a provision wherein GST number can be surrendered. In 2 or 3 cases, without doing any hassle-free, the GST registration was surrendered. There is a prescribed form for surrender, and they do allow the surrender. We need not wait for liquidation order in case of GST. So that is possible.
My question is, sir, like we are talking about the Shops and Establishment Act, in that also the company obtains the license, right, sir?
Shop Act, right?
Right. So Shops and Establishment Act is there, no? So
Yes.
I remember, sir, in one of our company, its registered office is in Bangalore. So there is no response from the department, and that matter is under process till now. Luckily, we haven't faced any problem, but not sure about future. So though we are not able to surrender the license because when we approach that department through a personal visit, they say that the things are going and will be done virtually. And when we visit their site, they say it's come up that the site is under process. Yeah, it's under work. So basically we are helpless. So we decided, let's move. Let's NCLT ask for it, and then we will surely, because there is no.
I agree with you.
But sir, what about other areas, sir? Like you must have handled the assignments in which the same.
See,
so how is it in Delhi and other areas?
Delhi I haven't handled, Chennai I have handled, Goa I have handled, Gujarat I have handled. Most troublesome area I'll tell you is labor laws. The PF ESI is most troublesome area. Again and again they do scrutiny, audit everything in spite of paying all liability entire, and these are all clean companies wherein big 4 auditors are there. To which they took 8 to 10 months. And surrender, to we made an application online also, offline also, both processes we did. Surrender still on the website, it is not showing that number is surrendered or cancelled. Ultimately, like you rightly said, we took a view. All this communication was compiled and made part of petition that has been submitted. So even shops and establishment also I have experienced. But in my case, the online as well as offline things worked. There is a form E, I think, if I'm not wrong. Form E is there. Online login we created. Form E we filed. A detailed application was submitted. All these resolutions and every newspaper clippings and everything we attached. We submitted that. So online also it is available. Of that same form, we took a printout, and by registered post, we sent it to the Shop Act office also.
Okay, so in our case, we were able to, like, we tried to fetch out the relevant mail ID, and we for sure marked the mail, and we just attached a copy of that mail.
3, 4 times, 5 times a reminder we have given, we have sent, and finally we took a practical call by attaching this.
But I believe this section, this area, particularly this area, is not really very responsive because GST though easily gets surrendered.
Yes.
It's not really very difficult, but this portion is not very cooperative, I must say.
Correct. Absolutely not. I tell you, ma'am, my voluntary winding up order has come. It came on 22nd of July. And 3 days back, I have received a CIRP claim form from a PF officer, Provident Fund officer, Pune, over here. And PF investigation took place for 8 months, 9 months. Liability was ascertained, it was paid. Interest was ascertained, it was paid. Penalty was ascertained, it was paid through a PF expert only. Everything happened. Surrender application was accepted. Surrender application doesn't see. So we have all acknowledgements and everything. NCLT order for this thing has passed. Dissolution has taken place. And we have received it. So we submitted a reply to that effect stating that please send us calculation because please go through this.
I just remember there is one of the company which went into voluntary liquidation. It was previously like 15 years back or 10 years back, it was listed at the stock exchange. Then it got deactivated from the exchange itself. And when we approached that, then they have given us the multiple forms. When we surrender, then they send us the revised copy of the form. So I remember it took around 4 months to get that matter closed with the exchange. So that was also difficult. But yes, they were responsive. They were doing the mails, but not like this that nobody is responding in office on mails. Website is also not working. So this was a deadlock portion which I found.
Even PT, RC, EC also we face difficulty. Sometimes in some cases who are expert in that, they are able to do that. Sometimes it takes months altogether. So this is also one of the factor which causes delay. We'll talk when reporting is there. No, I'll tell you what are the reasons for delay, what practical difficulties are there. I think we have very less time. I'll just wrap up quick.
Regulation, there's a separate regulation. Sorry, there's a separate regulation which says you have to surrender this license, or you can, or NCLT may order without surrender also. So
no, sir, there is no regulation which provides for surrender. It is we have to wind up the affairs. It is a responsibility cast upon us. We have to take a call. See, the question is we can't keep any liability open. We can't keep any. So what they have said in subsection 7 is when the affairs of the company are completely wound up. So that is the responsibility cast upon us. So gradually we surrender all the license. We comply with, we file the returns, we see what is the procedure for it. And sometimes it is the client's end. I tell them you hire some consultant known to you, or I have my team which will do that. And of course, proposal will be taken in that. And we only do this. There is no specific regulation says that, okay, you surrender all these license.
Yeah, so my view was that the NCLT can order without surrender also. Final resolution.
NCLT can order without surrender also, but it is up to us. Fully, we should be convinced that yes, this is absolutely closed. And yes, it's a good question actually. One more thing is that if some contingency is also there is a provision in the final report. I'll show you that. Even if some contingency is there known to us, some statutory dues is less, and there is a provision, sufficient provision is made for that, dissolution order is still possible. NCLT does passes an order. So that is possible. Liquidator to realize uncalled capital. If there is uncalled capital on calls in arrears, partly paid up shares, very rare scenario, but if partly paid up shares are there, at the beginning only these should be made fully paid up. The amount has to be recovered. Without that, if the section puts and restriction, no distribution shall be made to the contributory unless he makes the contribution fully paid. So that amount has to be made, this call has to be made. All monies to be paid in a separate bank account. One more interesting question. Two interesting questions over here. Firstly, this is about opening a bank account. Scenario 1, opening a bank account with the name involuntary liquidation. XYZ private limited involuntary liquidation. This account opening itself is a challenge first of all. And certain banks too, definitely those are worst. 6 months I have wasted. Few banks I have good tie-up now. 6 to 8 days, 10 days the account gets opened. So firstly, new account can be opened. The question is whether existing account can be converted into liquidation account. This is a typical question asked by directors. So the answer to this is yes, that is possible. If the bank's systems permits adding the name, in 2 of our cases we did this. In Janata Bank we did this. System allowed the change of name. So that is possible. Second question, minimum amount balance is there banked. So it is the liquidator initially who pays that money and then later on he gets an reimbursement. These are practicalities relating to this. Liquidation account has to be what happens? Yeah.
So one question, in the banks, they ask for the NCLT orders also, for either opening the account or for changing the name of the account or for updating the liquidator signature in the existing.
We have to educate
They are not convinced, nor their legal departments are privy to this kind of a thing.
But convincing them is a headache. I agree. This happened with me.
In one of the cases, it took us 10 months to update the signature.
See, in that case, what we do is, once you have a comfort level with the bank, I know this bank is entirely helpful. There are certain banks. I won't market any bank over here, but 7, 8, 10 banks are there who are experts in this area. This area being new, lack of awareness of there, lack of awareness amongst banks, lack of awareness amongst the authorities, and many a time lacks of awareness amongst the professionals also. So it will take time. I remember Janata Bank, entire legal team, I took this session on voluntary winding up. HDFC Bank, Goa branch, I took a voluntary winding up. But I did not go with that. IDBI Bank, I did that, but IDBI allowed. HSBC Bank, I did that, HSBC allowed. So they do get
Banks like
convinced.
SBI, HDFC, IndusInd, Central Bank, they are also ICICI, they are also not aware and they are taking 8 and 10 months for
Correct.
this.
And even some branches done, another branch is not aware. That is also
So
there.
is it valid if we open the liquidation account in a new bank and then the earlier account is closed by the
That is
small
more,
director's
yeah.
signature?
That is correct practice which I
Can the
promote.
directors transfer the money into the liquidation account and then close down the account?
Directors won't transfer. We have to write a letter.
But then they do not update the liquidator as a signatory, no? So once the liquidation commences, can the directors transfer the money to
I
the
have both these
liquidation account?
experiences. Based upon your letter as a liquidator, if you attach a resolution, the newspaper advertisement, I have experienced bank do transfer the money.
Okay.
They ask for a ID proof, address proof, they call you.
But they won't, unless liquidator is registered with the bank as a signatory or as any professional, they will not act upon the instructions of the
See,
liquidator.
at the most, what they do, they ask for a director's signature also, director's declaration also. But see, if you see the resolutions, the minutes and everything, those are signed by directors only.
Yeah.
In my case, I have experienced this. I wrote a letter to Bank of India, Goa, Miramar branch, and also HDFC Bank, Panjim branch. I wrote a letter that I have been appointed as a liquidator. These are the, of course, NCLT order is not there. These are the newspaper clippings, details in respect of my appointment and everything. On that basis, Bank of India in 3 days, they transferred the amount. And HDFC Bank, it took 1.5 months. They transferred it directly. In some cases, I agree with you, they might ask from some additional document or declaration or email from the existing director, is an authorized signatory. But legally, directors have been suspended. They remain in eclipse, not like CIRP. They are not suspended like CIRP. They do remain in picture. Again, one more practical point I'll highlight and then we can discuss. Sometimes director is not comfortable making you the signatory. He insists in 3-4 Pune-based resolution professional, they asked me the question. I have also faced this. Director says that, sir, we'll be joint signatories. We'll be jointly signing the account. So to that also we have to convince, no, it is only me as a liquidator responsible for this entire affairs. And I am an IBBA member, IPA member. I am more cautious than, I am more answerable to my authority. More than you, I have a fear of my authority in my degree. So definitely we have to act in fair and transparent manner. So they get
So
convinced.
my point is, if the directors are transferring the money from the existing bank account to the new liquidation account, so sir, any restriction, like I don't believe there is any restriction somewhere. If by the time liquidator has not been changed as a signatory in the existing bank account.
There is no restriction, but legally that is incorrect. Imagine that today an EOGM has happened. I have been appointed as a liquidator. And 8 days later, the director transfers the fund to liquidation account or 15 days later. Practically, nobody will catch this. Ultimately, they are supporting into the liquidation process only. That is okay. That is fine. But I do have an experience wherein I have written a letter along with annexures and sent a bank, and without taking anything from the directors, they have straight away transferred the fund to liquidation account. And they should ideally.
Sir, for the liquidation account, only the liquidator has to be the signatory or any other authorized official of the corporate?
Yes. In my view, yes. It has to be liquidator only. That cannot be jointly. At the most, orally you can assure, sir, without your consent, we will not make any expense. Not return, but we'll keep you in confidence. Or we will keep on sending you the bank statements. But
do you need
signatory
the
has to be one only.
Okay, but do you need the NCLT order for that?
No.
Not required.
Not required. Not required.
Okay, thank you.
I am signatories in 11 banks now. And what practice I follow, I'll tell you. I open a bank account with certain bank. I have 4-5 good banks, which they have assured that liquidation process hassle-free will do it. So I open the account with them, and rest of the banks, I send a letter and ask them to transfer the money to liquidation account.
Can you please mention, just for reference, these 4-5 banks who are easy to operate and they are supportive in this?
I'll repeat, sir. what practice I follow, I open a bank account, a fresh bank account, liquidation account. And if the company is having multiple accounts, I write a letter to all of them to transfer whatever fund or balance is there to the liquidation account. And then I start operating that liquidation account. 2 cases I have done, Janata Bank I have done that, converting the existing account only into liquidation account. So that is also allowed. They did cooperate us.
Friends, I'm asking just 4-5 banks who are quite supportive in this operation process of bank, as per your experience.
Okay, my experience is IDBI Bank, HSBC Bank, ING Vaishya Bank, Janata Bank.
HDFC also does it.
HDFC, you have to have good relations. Sorry, actually, I have very bad experience. I love that bank. I am a shareholder of that bank. It is the leading and topmost bank. But in case of voluntary winding up, maybe there was no awareness or something like that. We chased the bank for 6 months but could not open the account, Goa branch. So finally, we opened a Kothur branch IDBI bank account over here.
But yeah, IDBI is actually most comfortable and
And
convenient
one
to
more,
use
I'll tell you, one more
for
case has come now. We are planning for a voluntary winding up only, wherein there is my advocate friend. She's also involved into this. So she is damn confident. She's also an IP. She's damn confident that HDFC Bank is the fastest bank in this. So in that, I'm going with HDFC Bank. I said, like, you take a precaution. Are you sure? So she said, yes, I'm sure. So we are going with that. So it's
So
the way
that
you
depends on the RML, RM to RM. Many of the
Right.
HDFC branches, like we do also have the HDFC Bank. We are also done with the HDFC Bank. But no doubt, sir, in all these banks, the more professionally equipped bank legal team, I believe, is of HSBC. They are more legally aware of the things.
Yeah, they have studied, well studied that.
And the employees over there, especially in their legal department, or you come in the forex department, they
Correct.
are like, they are of sound knowledge, I will say.
Correct.
You don't
They have
need
the
to
knowledge of these
explain.
IBC provisions.
Yes.
So that helps us
That-
actually.
Yeah,
If
they
it's
have a
not
good
there, we
team.
have to educate them.
Hmm.
Yes, return of money. Shareholder shall forthwith return the money received. Sometimes excess payment is there. Definitely has to return. Completion of liquidation. This is about timeline. Okay. Timeline is 270 days or 90 days. 270 days in case where we have taken approval of creditors by 2/3 majority. And 90 days, it is otherwise. So for us, it is normally 90 days only. Practically 90 days is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Only in one instance I have done where nothing was there in that company. Otherwise, 90 days is difficult. And that's fine. They have given a way out for that. If it doesn't happen within that time frame, conduct a meeting of contributory, place a status report before the meeting, and get an extension for 1 more year.
So one thing I would like to get the clarity over here, it's about the distribution of. Sir, it's mentioned that within 30 days from the receipt of the money, in 30 days it should be distributed. So,
Yeah.
sir, this countdown of 30 days start from the date when the amount is received in the liquidation account to the liquidator.
Yes.
But like, I just want to, like, sir, if this, like, supposingly, sir, the money has been received in the liquidation account by the liquidator. However, the
Yes.
period of that 30 days of public announcement is still on. So in that case, from where did we will count this 30 days period?
We'll refer to that notification, ma'am. But practically, again, that is very difficult to comply with, because in our case, we submitted the remittance application and remittance took 3.5 months.
So that is what we have also faced. We like, because sir, we were not having the UIN, so we wrote a mail to RBI, then RBI. So that's why I'm asking now. If I will talk that in majority of the cases, the distribution has not happened within a period of 30 days.
Correct.
So that's why I want your focus on this.
See,
Like
I'll tell
in
you,
such scenario,
for this,
what
there
we
is a
are
solution.
supposed to do.
What we do for this, I'll
Yes,
tell you.
yes.
My experience with this is, in the petition, in the final report also, they say why the delay has happened. And in the petition also, NCLT petition also, we have an additional prayer that due to these things, It may be NOC from income tax. It may be reply from income tax. It may be assessment of PF. It may be surrender of any license. It may be remittance. It may be non-compliance under FEMA. FDI compliance was not done. Remittance is not allowed. No bank will do the remittance. Because of this, if time loss has happened, I have to give this reason. And in the petition, we add a clause that delay may be condoned. These are all practical difficulties. They don't stop, or they don't, what my experience is, they don't what we call as put an end to your or spoil your assignment. Your completion takes place. These timelines, sometimes at some places it's difficult, but NCLT's view, I'll tell you, when I appear before NCLT, they see broader points, main points, what has happened. Firstly, to getting number is difficult, getting your matter listed and hearing is difficult. But in 2 of my cases, I got positive order. Certain delays were there, certain flaws were there. IBBI might say this, to which I will justify. IPA might say this, but NCLT takes a view. It looks at that, and you have genuine and justifiable reason for that. Now, if FEMA compliance is not done by that person, bank is not allowing the remittance. Bank is asking 10 points email, stating that give us this, give us that. Unnecessary. Nowhere in the regulation the things are there, but they ask on liquidator's letterhead that there are no dues, all laws have complied. Such kind of declarations bank do ask. So this process gets delayed. There also we have to educate sometimes. And as somebody rightly said, almost every bank's email asks for NCLT order, which is voluntary winding up, it is not available. So we have to educate. We have a paragraph drafted. We copy and paste it. The process is this. So educating them, that's it. After a couple of years, maybe there'll be an awareness. Okay. Like when LLP concept came, people were not aware of LLP. What LLP is, whether it's a company or a partnership. So yes, we are still in transition phase. Even after 7 years of this thing, voluntary winding up is not a routine nature of assignment.
So one question.
Yeah.
Regarding premature closure of fixed deposits maintained at the banks. So will that be amounting to asset realization, and whether it has to be distributed to the contributories within 30 days? Because normally what we do is make the payments to the shareholders only at the end of the liquidation when all the amount
Yes, payment will be at the end only.
So it is not like any surplus that is coming into the liquidation account that is compulsorily to be paid to the shareholders within 30 days.
Even that is possible. I have never done that, but even that is possible. Based upon your question, what came to my mind is, suppose I am having 1 crore rupees into my account. Some assets are realized something has taken place. Sometimes shareholders do insist that, sir, maximum 20 lakhs should be the expense. Not in any case, not beyond that. You remit us 80 lakhs rupees.
Right.
So few IPs are there, they do remit. They
So
do
that
remit.
is not prohibited. Part like after keeping sufficient provision,
after making sufficient
we
provision,
can
but
disburse
I have
the
never
amount
done
to
that.
the...
In 8 of my cases, I have never done that. I say, sir, it's a matter of 2 months or it's a matter of 3 months. Let's wait. Last entry should be your payment. But I know
Right.
IPs who do this, their petitions are also approved.
And how do we take care of the provisional expenses that are required after making the payment to the shareholders, like the NCLT fees, NCLT hearing
I have that
costs?
point also. You have to make an advance provision and make a payment to that effect. Especially keeping of records, or especially a person, suppose you have hired a lawyer who will appear on your behalf before NCLT. So I have to pay 1,50,000 to him. I tell him to make advance billing.
Right, but then there are certain incidental expenses which are not foreseen. So can the liquidator take it into his account and pay it on behalf of the company
My
subsequently?
suggestion is no, don't take it. Keep it with
Then
company.
how do we close the bank account? Because the NCLT asks for the bank closure certificate first.
This is a risk. This is a problem, and I totally agree with you. In my case, it happened. Bank account is closed today, and what Provident Fund officer has asked, affidavit verified by me on a stamp paper of 500 rupees. So not only this 500, so this 1,000 rupees, or making dunzo, or income tax department keeps on asking for files. So I have to send my person to that. So this is the big problem. This recurring nature of cost is there. You have to give an idea to the directors. Ultimately, if some liability comes in future, they have to pay the liability. We can ask for this thing. See, sir, this is there and you have to pay. What do we do with that? But again, we have to make a correct estimate also, that what might arise in future. And based upon experience, we realize that, okay, this future expense might come. So maybe the advocate who is there or consultant you are hiring, he can take care of it. Now obtaining certified copy for NCLT. Appearing how many times NCLT, I don't know. Now hybrid mode is okay, it is there. But sometimes physical mode, if I'm traveling from Pune to Mumbai, cost is 6,500 rupees one day if I go by cab. If 10 hearings are there, 65,000 rupees is gone. I have to make a provision, some provision in advance about this.
The provision, making provision is correct, but then where to keep that money?
Paying advance. Maybe one time lump sum payment has to be made. Like this isn't just an example, like NCLT, handling NCLT matter. In my case, I paid to the advocate, the advance billing. I asked him breakup, what is your fees? What is NCLT fees? What are all charges? What are traveling charges? So this is say suppose 1,50,000. Now anything beyond this, it is your destiny. It is your loss. Anything below this, it's okay. We are okay with that. Against invoice, I have made the payment.
Okay.
Such kind of this is just an example. Such kind of adjustment we have to make.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Thank you.
Then final report. This point I wanted to discuss. I'll move slightly fast and cover up main points now. We are almost at the end of now. Sufficient provision has been made to meet the obligation arising out of any litigation. So this is in support of my claim that even if some contingent liability is open, voluntary winding up is possible. NCLT do pass an order. Although I have never came across such kind of order because presently regular and genuine winding up applications are also pending. But yes, this is possible. Legally, this is possible that some provision has been made. Say, suppose we estimate income tax has demanded 30 lakhs. And directors have given an undertaking that if whatever liability comes, I give a guarantee for that. So in that case, NCLT may allow the sufficient provision has been made to that effect arising out of obligation of pending litigation, the company may be closed. Then shortfall of explanation in the final report. What amount you have sold the asset? What was the valuation? Why shortfall was there? All these things. Final report has to be filed with the registrar and board. Registrar form GNL2. Board, we send it an email. There is a circular LIQ liquidation voluntary LIQ VOL at ibba.gov.in. That email address we send an email. Corporate voluntary liquidation account. Now this account quickly I'll run through. Not very this thing. This is an account maintained by IDBI. This is with Punjab National Bank. In one of my instances, I had to transfer money to this account. Money here remains for 15 years. For at 15 years, if voluntary liquidation has not happened, person writes in form I to liquidator. Liquidator have to request to the board that please pay that money to him who has not claimed. I also have to inform to adjudicating authority. If company is wound up and the money is over there in that account, unclaimed, dividend amount are there, deposits are there. Suppose he wants to claim in next 15 years, he have to directly file form I with IBBI. IBBI will pay that money to him. After 15 years, that amount will go to Consolidated Fund of India. That is about this thing. Detection of fraud and insolvency. Now, it is IP's responsibility. If he identifies that someone has committed voluntary winding up process, see, these are practically these factors we have to take into consideration well in advance. I denied to such assignments where I could smell that there is money, but promoter is not willing to pay the money to the bankers or to the financial creditors or to the operational creditors. He wants to sell out the asset and siphon the money. So no, never it is advisable. Suppose it happens to you that you have taken up the assignment and this kind of things come. So the remedy available to you is under 40 subsection 2, you approach the NCLT adjudicating authority and get the voluntary winding up withdrawal. I have such order. I'll show you that. Preservation of record. This is liquidation record I was talking about. So I'll send this to you. See, same principle applies to us, 8 years and 3 years. Yeah. These are regulations. I'll run through the PPT quickly. We also have to keep 5 minutes for at least question and answers. So this was the law which we discussed. Okay. Quickly, I'll also show now that we have reached. I also have a procedure in 5 minutes or 7 minutes would be sufficient to this. How voluntary liquidation takes place. See, this is a process. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a Word file which contains the procedure for voluntary liquidation. Nowhere I have read that voluntary liquidation, whether there is a provision in the Articles of Association or not. I read this provision in one book. Many of you must be having that book. That book is ICSI IIP's publication. I hope you're able to see this. This book is there on voluntary winding up. This is very useful book, actually. This is very helpful. It is available in publication. So that helped me. Only in this book, they have given check provision in the articles. Article provision is not required, nowhere required. But what point it made is there may be some startup agreement. Startup winding up is also a concept, or investor agreement. From that point of view, I have to verify the articles of association. There may be some special voluntary winding up related clauses. This might get excused or skipped. So yes, let's quickly go through the process. Check provision in the articles relating to winding up. Call a board meeting. Convene a board meeting, and what do we do in this meeting? Voluntary liquidation, consider and approve the declaration of solvency. So prior to this declaration of solvency comes, then the notice to be sent. We ensure that declaration of solvency is either of this date or at least 1 or 2 days difference is okay. Then E-form GNL2 has to be filed, and MGT14 also. Then convening general meeting, special or ordinary resolution to be passed. Liquidation commencement date is that, or the date of creditors. Filing of form MGT14 with the register of companies and GNL2. GNL2 gets delayed because if MGT14 gets delayed, because GNL2 SRN has to be mentioned of MGT14, and that SRN has to be approved. This forms goes for approval with ROC. Public announcement within 5 days. This we already discussed. Necessary intimation to the authorities. Now it is intimation. Earlier it was income tax NOC. Now NOC is not required. I have experienced all 3 things. Firstly, I have sent a letter to income tax officer without any trouble, without personally meeting. They have sent me a letter directly that, sir, we don't have any objection. You go for winding up. That is first. Secondly, I did not receive any reply. And thirdly, a claim was filed. So all 3 scenarios I have seen. We have to settle them out. But NOC is not required. Preliminary report, 45 days has to be filed. We saw that. Opening a bank account, we discussed all the aspects. Quickly, can a bank account be converted into liquidation? Yes. What to do with the other banks? Those are obviously are to be closed. Who is signatory to the account? Can they be joint? Advisable? Not. Directors insist, but I have never allowed them. I said, no, sir. It has to be one only because it's my responsibility. Realization of asset. So selling out of asset, distribution of funds. Completion of liquidation, 270 days, 90 days, we saw it. If doesn't happen, then call license, then surrender all license also at this stage. Final report. Filing final report with IBBI. This goes through email. I have already discussed. NCLT application. Once your bank account is closed, I remember my first assignment, they asked me how much fee you will charge. So I said, this is the fee. Then how is the manner of payment? So I was not aware actually how things work in voluntary liquidation. I just took the assignment theoretically. But one best part of this assignment is even that can convert into worse. But what I like is 100% payment you get in advance, because without that account cannot be closed. So NCLT application is possible only after the closure of bank account and audit of accounts. Filing of order within 14 days with NCLT and with IBBI also. Preservation of records for 8 years. This is the process. I'll be sharing the process also with you. Moving to the PPT. I'll quickly wrap up the PPT now. Procedure we already saw. This is a summary process. Okay, this is the summarization right from declaration of solvency till application for a dissolution. Voluntary liquidation detailed process. We saw it. Timeline. This timeline also we'll share. No, let's not get into it. Regulations, we saw the timeline. So within 5 days, within 7 days, within 45 days, these different exercises are there. And again, these are also taken from that ICSI IIP book only, which is absolutely.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. Your presentation is really nice. Can you please circulate the presentation to us?
100%. I'll share today itself. I'll share.
Thank you, sir. It's a really nice presentation.
Thank you. So what I intend to is any IPs, because I have faced that, any IPs who wants to take voluntary winding up assignment, by referring to this presentational format, you should be able to do that confidently. Or those who are already doing, I can add some value to them or some experience to them. That was the intention. Definitely, I'll share this, everything, all the formats and everything.
So we would request even the procedure part that you just showed us in Word format.
Everything I'll send. Everything. Even orders are there. 10 orders are there. I told you I digged around 30 orders. Out of that, 10 orders I have taken. I'm not saying those are landmark judgments, but those are different judgments. Those can be useful. That distribution of assets directly. This is something new, unique. So that also I'll share. These are our timelines till 14 days. This is completion. We already discussed the regulation 37. Liquidation reporting requirement. Preliminary report. Annual, I have intentionally deleted by amendment, is gone. Madam rightly said it is status report now. These 4 reports I have to submit. Then ROC filing, GNL 2, MGT 14, again GNL 2 and IMC 28. IBBI, IP1 initially, then public notice has to be uploaded, submission of claim. Now this new form, we already discussed this, submission of form H through email. Reporting to income tax, 178, it is there. There is a separate slide. That page also I'll share with you.
The minutes of consultations or the stakeholders consultation committee meetings are to be shared only with the stakeholders, no, on their request, not
Only
to the
with
IBBI.
stakeholders. Yes, yes, yes.
Not to the
Only
IBBI.
stakeholders.
Right.
Preliminary report also with corporate person only, not to ROC IBBI.
Yeah, but corporate person as in the promoters or the directors?
Directors.
Okay, individual. Okay, thank you.
Income tax also I have a separate file that I will share with you. Only 4 sections are there, one of which is 178. This is VL1, VL2, VL3, VL4. We are all working on that right now. So that we discussed. Practical difficulties in voluntary liquidation. These are important slides. Difficulty in opening bank account due to lack of awareness. We already discussed. Difficulty in closing bank account, especially DMAT. These processes are there. Convincing them, justifying them. A person who is not an authorized signatory comes and directly files an application and states that I am a liquidator. This is the advertisement. This is the resolution. And there is no NCLT order. So yes, initially it's difficult to convince them, but they do get convinced. Difficulty in repatriation of funds. My two recent out of 3, 2 liquidations are stuck up because FEMA compliance was done at that time, but they are not able to find the acknowledgements. And banks find approval. They ask for approval. So maybe they might have to go for FEMA compounding. Without FDI compliance, without FCGPR, without FCTRS, they don't allow the remittance of funds. Section 59 does not get attention from adjudicating authorities, hence process gets delayed. Yes, one of my matter, 8 hearing took place. Due to paucity of time, the matter has been adjourned. Every time the matter comes, they give the next date. Sometimes winding up becomes endless assignment for voluntary liquidator. Like yesterday, I've taken the fees 1 year back, and yesterday Provident Fund officer letter has received. So I have to reply to that. So it is time consuming and this is unending. That's the problem with this assignment. But yes, it's a good area if you charge good fees considering all these factors. That's why while negotiating on fees, 100% no negotiation. And in all my 11 assignments, I have never done negotiation. I have never done compromise. And people do say, "Arey yaar, bahut milte hai IP Mumbai mein to they charge less fees." I have never charged less fees because you have 15 years of practice behind you. If I don't get any assignment, my office is running. So जब जरूरत थी तो हमने negotiate नहीं किया. Now at least we all are professionals of 10 years plus experience. Filing of GNL2, this we already discussed. MGT 14 gets delayed, so GNL2 gets delayed. Surrender of license regulations is time consuming. Then precautions to be taken before taking up the assignment. Checking last 3 to 5 years records. We don't know the intention of promoters. Why? If he's running for exit, there is certainly something dark into it. We have to examine from that point of view only. Understanding exact reason for closure. Why closure is there? Ensuring solvency, whether he's really solvent or not. Checking status of legal compliance and ensuring whether anything is pending. Like in one of our cases, 3 years ROC filing was pending, MCA filing was pending. They said, "Sir, we want to close this company. Whether without filing it is possible." Not possible. Compliance has to be done. And then filing under Companies Act to be completed. Terms of registered office address understanding. One very what we call as even today I get nervous when I remember that. It was like 3rd or 4th winding up. Quickly, I'll tell that case. We have very less time. What had happened? That's why I mentioned here terms RO office, outstanding rent and deposit. Deposit can be claimed. What had happened? Director has given his registered office, his home as a registered office address, which was in his wife's name. 2 years agreement was made. In 8th year, the company came for winding up. 2 years agreement was made. 2 years rent was paid. Auto renewal was not there. 6 years went away. Company got, it was not working as such. It was just namesake registered office address. And when we published the advertisement, after 8 years, that lady filed a claim of rent of 1 crore 50 lakhs rupees, of which I had to decide whether the claim has to be accepted or not. Obviously later on, so that was a tension for me. I was worried. Top class lawyers, India's top lawyers firms are many partners of my friends fortunately my seniors. So 8 of them said you reject it, and 3 of them said lady has some claim into it. You have published the newspaper advertisement with her address. You have been showing her. It need not be physically you sitting over there. So she has a claim. So that was a conflict, and I was damn confused what to do with that. But fortunately, I got the solution for that. Simple thing was that if I approve, what was the basis for approval? I saw the records of last 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. None of the audited balance sheet had that claims. So that was one assignment was tricky, and that gave me tension. But the lady never came back. I rejected the claim on 2-3 grounds. Agreement was expired, no auto renewal. Secondly, claim was not as per as required by IBC. And last 7 years, 8 years, audited financial statements were given. Declaration of solvency was given along with 2 years audited financial statements to me, in which there is no reference of a rent. Now, if at all she comes, fights into the court, that's fine. She may fight. Whatever courts decide, promoters will have to pay that amount. Requiring the claim for shareholders along with the creditors. This is also one of my friend is there. She was an IP and she committed a mistake. Like I discussed this, that shareholders approval was not there. 30% shareholder did not approve, and newspaper advertisement was already published. So that's why, as a precaution, take signatures everywhere from everyone. Ensuring FEMA compliance is up to date or not. Without that, money is not going to go. While taking up assignment only, you say, ask your FEMA consultant to do the FEMA compliance compounding, do that, and then come. Otherwise, remittance, it will get stuck up. Forecasting and making provision for future expense, ma'am, and we discussed that. That has to be done. Provision for keeping statutory records of the corporate person, 450 files, 500 files. There are agencies, they convert this record into electronic record over a period. They charge fees for that, and they also take rent for premises. Not to hire any consultant advisor during liquidation process who was already part of it. Cash transaction, 5,000 or not. I do not do 1 rupee transaction also by cash. Do everything online only. One more thing, don't give work to related party. Don't try to ask them to overcharge. That is also difficult many times. So fair and transparent manner has to be taken care of because we have been watched continuously. Prescribe checklist and synopsis of benches. When we talk about petition, there are certain benches, Mumbai bench or Chennai bench. They have provided a synopsis. That helps us. When you file a petition, you refer that synopsis. Otherwise, they reject the petition. I'll show you that synopsis I have brought in for you. Filing of application with NCLT, I'll show you the petition. Critical aspects or questions. We'll quickly discuss this and then my presentation will be over. Does board of directors get suspended in case of voluntary liquidation? Now, since we have limited time, I'll answer these questions immediately. If you still have concerns or discussions, I'll leave my email address. You can drop me an email or my message. You can WhatsApp me. Does board of directors get suspended in case of voluntary liquidation like CRP? In my view, no. Board of directors still remains intact. It's not that they are totally suspended and move out of responsibility. They have to be there. Is filing of return...
One question, Sandeep ji.
Yes, ma'am.
So whether you insist conducting of board meetings which are required as per Companies Act?
No, not required. Board meetings are not required. Legally, whether they are out of picture. No, they are not out of picture.
So
sometimes
they are on
board
the
meeting
board.
did not comply. Very good question. Whether board meetings are to be done, whether AGM has to be done, whether, and there is also 2 schools of thoughts. You may also guide me in this, any of you. Whether annual filing has to be done or not. There is a circular, March 2020 circular is there, which talks about CIRP liquidator has to file the returns, AOC for an MGT7 to be filed through GNL to form. In case of my view is that in case of voluntary liquidation, AOC for MGT7 need not be filed through GNL2. But there are certain professionals, chartered accountants are there who are of view that AOC for MGT7 also is required to be filed every year until the company is dissolved. So board of directors do remain, but board meeting not required, AGM not required, income tax return has to be filed. RO Companies Act return need not be filed in my view. FLA return, file it, anyways it is nil return. So NCLT, some benches ask for the latest return. Suppose your matter is reached after maybe 2 years. Today's what document it is there. So they might come up, they might say that you file, give me a copy of income tax return. So we have advised our clients, and in that case, again, the question arises, what about the fees? Who will keep on filing the income tax return, nil return for 4 years, 5 years? But yes, you have to convince that in that manner. In my case, consultants have agreed. They said that, okay, fine, sir, we have received the money. We'll keep on unless the NCLT order comes. Can voluntary liquidator...
Just sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Income tax returns have to be filed. ROC returns, FEMA, FLA is not mandatory to be filed, right?
Income tax return file, ROC returns not required in my view, but there is second school of thought which says yes. You will find another webinar also. One chartered accountant sir is there, senior sir is there. He said in his view, GNL2 forms. See, there is a circular. I'll share you that circular also. On the basis of that, he says AOC for MG7 has to be filed, but there is no going concern in that case. In CIRP, we agree there is a going concern. So in my view, IT returns, file it. Companies Act return not required. FEMA FLA return, file it. Because anyways, it is nil return only. Submission of NCLT application, upon submission application, yes. But ROC return need not be filed in my view. Is passing of resolution of voluntary liquidation notice of discharge to stakeholders. In voluntary liquidation, it does not discharge them from liability like CIRP. Can voluntary liquidator resign? Yes, he can. There is no provision for resignation. At the most, he can talk with the promoters and they can ask him to. But there is no provision for resignation. There has to be actually, wherever there is no comfort. The only remedy which they have given is that if you are discomfort, then approach adjudicating authority and tell what is the problem. Is voluntary winding up order possible in case of pending litigation? Yes, we already discussed that. Certain contingency provision is made, then NCLT might take a view. I have practically seen this at Mumbai bench. Is audit required for the period? This we already discussed. Not audit, but CA audited financial statements are required.
Sir,
yeah.
In case of remittance abroad to any foreign shareholder, then the RBI is not allowing if the court litigations are pending.
Yes, RBI will
Indian
not.
shareholders, I have no clue, but foreign shareholders, definitely RBI is not allowing. We take that under.
Okay. Okay, this is a new information for me. Thanks for sharing. Some important cases. So that is, we'll go through those cases. Any questions we'll discuss later on. And now, like I said, let's go to that income tax slide. Which are the 3-4 provisions which I need to know? 222C, deemed dividend. It applies to the distribution. My chartered accountant seniors and my colleagues can guide better in this. I have taken a CA's help to take this. So I'm not expert in this area. My own income tax returns and GST returns, my CA friends file, because I believe in expertise is different. Day in, day out, they do this work. But basic knowledge I have to have while taking the assignment, because taxation is also one of the factors, important or essential factors before taking up the decision for voluntary winding up. Whatever proceeds are distributed to the shareholders, that is taxed as dividend. Obviously, the capital which is there, that is not taxable. Any amount over and above which is paid on the capital, that is treated as dividend, taxable as dividend. 10% TDS we do deduct, and we file TDS returns also. Section 46, distribution not to be treated as transfer. That is in case of company. But if any asset is transferred to a shareholder directly, in that case, market value of the asset is to be taken into consideration.
Excuse me, sir, may I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
In case of, the return of share, when the share capital at the time of liquidation, if it is, that capital money is refunded to them, that will be also treated as a deemed dividend?
No, capital amount is not treated as deemed dividend.
Right.
Only surplus.
Only surplus. Surplus meaning, sir, how would you differentiate?
Suppose my paid up capital is 100 rupees.
Yeah.
And I am paying them 120 rupees. So
okay,
20
rupees will be treated as a dividend.
Let's assume a scenario where I am paying them 80 rupees.
Right.
No deemed dividend.
No dividend, then it's a loss.
It's a loss. It's a loss, and still it's a solvency. It's not that the company is not solvent. Shareholders will get haircut.
So the shareholders will take hit in that case.
Yes, they'll take the hit, definitely.
Thank you.
Market value will be considered, and then capital gain tax will be applicable to that. Applicable to foreign shareholders, yes, it is applicable. Taxation is applicable. 176, it's a responsibility cast upon a person who discontinues the business to contact the concerned tax authorities and inform them that I'm closing the business, so that they can do the assessment. 178, notice of appointment of liquidator AO. We have been put a responsibility on this, and this is most a dangerous statement, that any contravention of provision, liquidator shall be personally liable to the tax on the company. What remuneration we are taking, and if there is a liability of 5 crore rupees, how I can be personally liable for this? So this is dangerous. 178, we have to be extremely careful. We have to it's a matter of reporting. So we have to inform them. And my experience with authorities in the winding up process is absolutely pleasant. They do cooperate. in one of our cases, I got a call from income tax office. They said, sir, there is an amount 480 that is outstanding. Can you please go and pay? I need not file because of claim filing expenses more than that. So we just went and I said, yes, ma'am, 4,80,000 will pay it. She started laughing. He said, it is 480 rupees, sir, not 4,80,000. So we just paid that. So that is possible. That's not an issue. And best part is I do have 2 orders wherein in NOC was not issued. NOC was not issued, still the orders was passed. Now 2 things I have to show it to you. We have 4 minutes only. This is a checklist. I'll quickly show it to you. And lastly, I'll show you the petition which we had filed. I've taken promoter's approval to show you the petition for academic purposes. And their orders.
Can you please share the petition format?
I'll do that, sir, definitely.
So you can take 5 minutes. You can take 5 minutes extra, 10 minutes extra. That's no problem.
Yeah, I'll share petition also. No worries, sir. If you want, I can send you the soft copies also of Word file.
Thank you so much, but you can exceed by 5-10 minutes if that's a requirement.
I'll try to wrap up. We're almost done. See, synopsis. This is prescribed by NCLT Chennai bench. I got this from cause list, and initially we got a query that this synopsis has to be like this. So this synopsis also I'll share with you. When we download the cause list, this synopsis we have to attach to the petition, without which the petition got rejected. So this is one synopsis, and now we'll move to the petition, sir. This is the final petition for reference. This was actually submitted before the. One more practical point I'll tell you. While filing a petition, there has to be a authorized signatory. Now this is he's my friend actually. He's my friend, not related from anywhere, but we have created a login of his and we have submitted through his login. There has to be advocate who submits the petition through his login. So he is a person who has submitted. However, in case of voluntary winding up, he need not appear. He need not appear. The voluntary liquidator himself can appear. In 3 of our matters, I myself appeared and the order was passed. But why I have taken his name? Because your NCLT set doesn't get accepted. You have to have an MBP, that NCLT 12, Memorandum of Appearance. So this is slight old petition, January 24. After that, over a period of experience, we learned and we got good amount of experience how a petition has to be drafted, what things are to be covered into it. So tabular formats, compliance of section 59 has to be. If you see the latest order, you will understand how the petition has to be drafted. So see, this is a covering letter. Then this NCLT Chennai bench, sorry. So, and in this company is wound up. So I was an IP in this case. And memorandum of appearance, memorandum of parties is there. Okay, memo of parties is there. Then this is the index. It contains covering letter, memo of parties, index, synopsis, list of dates and events, when what happened, application under 59, certificate of incorporation, MOA, master of the company, declaration by the directors, board resolution, special resolution, advertisements, GNL to MGT 14 file with ROC, IBBI IP1, preliminary report, financial statements of 2 years, NOC from income tax department. In this case, we got an NOC from department. Copy of, see, this is also a typical interesting case. What had happened, I have also, in this case now, there was a asset owned by company. It was a mutual fund and it was validity for 10 years. A question might come to you, sir, company के नाम पे mutual fund है जिसको validity period है 10 साल का. Can that company be closed? People will say, no, आपको company 10 साल संभालनी पड़ेगी. So it's not like that. What we did, we filed the petition and we got it assigned through NCLT order. Bank did not allow us initially, but they said, once your company is dead, transmission provision is there. So contributories meeting we conducted and we got an order to that effect from honorable bench. So GNL2 is there, H is there. So whatever process of 59 you do, you have to attach to it. This is a petition signed by me, fully notarized. Now this is synopsis. Entire things, what has happened. And this is the main petition now. List of dates on events must be there. Yeah, date wise, what has happened. I'll share this petition also, all these formats with you all. By copying this or by following this, you too can take the assignment of voluntary winding up and do it effectively. If you have concerns, any kind of help is required, you can always contact me, definitely.
Sir, please share your contact details also.
Yeah. So this MOA, all these contents are there, resolution and everything. we talk about resolution also. In this resolution, you'll find out, maybe if you are fortunate, we'll see legal cases necessity. Liquidator has been appointed to operate the bank account. So in the resolution, we delegate these authorities, and his remuneration is also mentioned into that. So this is the entire petition. Nowadays at Mumbai bench, they don't take hard copy. Hard copy has to be submitted only upon order. Otherwise, they on soft copy basis, they have started now. Petition is small, runs into around 250, 300 pages. Some are small, some big. This was the synopsis which we attached. I think I have discussed all the aspects regarding today's presentation. It's 5-1.
So I would like to seek clarity on two points. I would like to seek clarity on 2 points, sir. So my first point is, so there is a calling of contributories meeting. So, sir, one contributory meeting is supposed to be called when there is a delay.
Yeah.
Like when the distribution, the liquidation cannot be completed within a period of 90 days, right, sir?
Yes,
Sir,
there are two situations.
I remember in your presentation in this session, you have discussed about the contributory meeting where you told us that the liquidator is supposed to take suggestions from the contributories, but he is not obliged to implement those suggestions. So, sir, can you please
that is not contributories, that is
brief,
stakeholders. That is different. That is stakeholders. Those parties who are under section 53. Yes, sorry, you can continue with your question.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So that is different basically. See, under regulations, there are two instances wherein contributories meeting is there. Firstly, in case of delay. And secondly, where an asset cannot be readily sold. Asset cannot be readily sold out. So with the contributories approval, we can sell those assets. We can distribute that asset to the contributor. Few orders are there, which I will email to you. 10 orders are there I had downloaded. One is in respect of LLP winding up. One is in respect of winding up carried out, started voluntary winding up process carried out, but liquidator filed a 42 application. It was senior company secretary IP Vinod Kothari sir. So he had filed that, and it was dismissed, cancelled. Another case, income tax officer filed NCLT identified there was a 1 crore 99 lakhs outstanding liability was there. So on that ground, the petition was rejected. They had merely taken a NOC from creditor that मुझे 1 crore रुपए देना है लेकिन मुझे नहीं चाहिए, जाओ वाइंडिंग पे. So it doesn't happen. NCLT did not approve that. Few orders sort of, yes. So those I'll be sharing. Apart from this, anything to discuss or shall we wrap up? You tell me. Thank you.
Shall we conclude, sir?
So mentioned that 2/3 of the creditor's approval is required. Now, 2/3 is in value or 2/3 in numbers?
Value.
Okay.
It's in value.
It's in value. It's written there.
It's value.
Okay.
Yeah, in case liquidator is like even after the order and all, if some claims comes up, so is the liquidator bound till is there any time period or his lifetime bound for any contingency or this thing if it comes up after?
It is lifetime. Unfortunately, this is the only problem. That's why while negotiating the fees, we should not negotiate on fees while taking up the assignment. Volume of work is very, very large. That's why many people are not happy, because ongoing basis payment is not received. And it also sometimes happens that 100% amount, although it is more, 100% amount is received, and for indefinite period you are just going on working. That sometimes happens. It is frustrating, but that's fine. We have taken that challenge.
Should we build up any in the resolution or something, some declaration because if some claim comes up, maybe the first point of contact may be the liquidator, but if there is a contribution is required or any claim settlement is required, then
it is director who will have to pay that. Liquidator need not pay. It is their liability who will pay that. They cannot escape their liability. If it also
should be built in some specific clause in this or in any appointment or something for regarding this to cover this liability.
Clause, I think affidavit and undertaking also contains this. I take this as an homework, and over an email I'll answer this. But yes, it is directors who have to pay that. Because they have, in the declaration of solvency, they have ensured that made a full inquiry into the affairs of the company, state of affairs. So there they have failed actually. So that amounts to be a wrong declaration. Cases I could not discuss, but I'll share those cases. Those are not like landmark judgments, but those are very, very what we call as different kind of judgment, like especially transfer of immovable property directly to two brothers. No payment was made. So directly immovable properties were transferred. Delhi bench order is there. So I'll be sharing those orders with you. You can go through and all voluntary winding up orders. Maximum number of pages is 15 pages. 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 pages. So we could read in 8 days only 500 orders we read.
In all what I could understood, in all what I could understood, like NCLT has the door of NCLT has to be knocked when at the time of final dissolution order, like
Yes.
preliminary reports and all has not to be filed. So at the time of final dissolution, when everything is
Correct.
closed out, bank
Correct.
account,
The last thing you do
money
is
has been
filing
paid.
NCLT application.
Yeah, money has been paid to the shareholders and all. Then we bank account is closed. Then we have to go to
Bank account is closed. After that, CA does an audit. And that audit report along with final report has to be submitted to NCLT.
For final. At that time, we are knocking at the door of NCLT.
Yes, yes. Otherwise, if there is fraud or anything, only in that case NCLT comes into picture. Otherwise, if it's a genuine case, then nowhere NCLT comes into picture. See, that's why we are extended arms of NCLT. We are a court officer. That responsibility is cast upon us. So we do the entire exercise and then we come into picture before the NCLT.
Before that, the quasi authorities like IBBI and all are there. They are monitoring.
Yes, yes. That monitoring is there, sir. That is there. But yes, definitely this is lucrative assignment. If I'm charging, say, suppose take an example, X amount, 5 lakhs. And if I'm doing 10 liquidations. So in 1 year span, patiently I'm doing the work. And again, there is no what we call as it's our area. Nobody other than IP can does this work. Earlier under the Old Companies Act, I remember I used to work under a senior company secretary. So he used to do this voluntary winding up assignments at that time under Old Companies Act. So they were not such kind of requirement. Any CA, CS professional advocate used to do this. Here it is only IP.
Regarding that, those compliance work and also, since we are not engaging the company's officials, so can we engage some external party and build a separately to company for those compliances or accounting work, which is liquidated?
Like one ma'am and we discussed, it's always better to make the provision in advance only. You hire for future services and you pay it advance only. Sir, GST return hai, GST का कुछ भी आता है, then you have to take care of it in future also until the NCLT order comes, please. ऐसा अपन बोल के we can do that. We can take the help of professional. See, individually doing everything is not possible. Just writing letters, replies, okay, we can do that. PF, I'll write the letters. But again, if something pops up, some expertise is required in that. I don't file PF returns every day. So I have to have take expert's opinion, to which I have to have an understanding that, sir, if at all in this matter, you have always been advising through the liquidation process, but extra provision can be made, excess payment can be made through the bank, and for which he can provide the services in future. Later on, not possible. Later on, maybe the directors can individually, but I'll tell you practically, they are also not happy if any liability goes to them. Initially, they'll agree that, okay, 10 crore rupees are there. You distribute 3 crores, not a problem. At least peacefully, the shareholders can enjoy the money. Why again the liability comes? So that is the only time wherein the money can be taken and withdrawn. So this forecast has to be taken. And again, few things are there over a period of experience we learn. My first voluntary winding up 10 times they were asking, sir, is it really your fees? Is it okay? Or you want more? For me, it was very high fees. For them, it was less. But sometimes PF officer asks some undertaking, affidavit, something. So that's a cost for me, but I've accepted that. That's fine. Still, it was a good amount. It was a good learning experience. And it has taught me, the first liquidation taught me. Based upon that, I can do the other this thing. So that's fine. We have to forecast this expense. That's a difficult and a good judgment which we have to make.
Yeah, my point was regarding during the liquidation process, if there are some operational expenses like compliance or accounting or something, so like we cannot appoint a related party of company or any past professional.
We cannot. Totally outsider have to be there.
Outsider has to be there, so there has to be separate cost for that. What if company don't agree? So in case of voluntary winding up, if there is no other this thing and no fraudulent intention, so can we take the help of existing staff of company? That is under the supervision of liquidator, but can we take, or is it not practically advisable?
Practically, yes. He knows the data, everything he knows. He
Yes,
has login
that is-
IDs, password. We can help.
Yeah.
Practically, we can take the help.
No cost has to be built in.
Then that's fine. Absolutely, we can take. Not an issue. As long
But
as
no
we are not
cost-
causing any
Yeah, but
hardship.
but no cost or charge has to be made on that account.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That is the key. Okay.
Correct. That's the key. See, that one tip is always there. If a voluntary winding up company comes to you, wait for 6 months, try to clean up the balance sheet. Clean up the balance sheet in fair manner, definitely. Related party transaction should not be there because last 2 years record we have to dig in. So you can clean up the balance sheet so that the liquidator's role gets reduced. If it's a small company and some fixed deposits are there, we can advise the directors, sir, it's up to you. If you want to wind up the company right now, appoint me, I'll realize those assets for you. If not, you sell it out. As far as possible, make my job simple so that I can take up the assignment. So creditors, if I pay off the creditors, there's no question of 2/3 approval. This is voluntary winding up. No creditor is going to get haircut.
Even those FDs or mutual fund part should we transfer. Even that FDs or mutual funds part also we should realize in the bank before taking up the assignment.
Yes, it is advisable to. Ultimately, I have to do that work. Either I have to do or director have to do. In my domain, if I do 10 assignments or 10 tasks, I'm answerable for all those 10 tasks. So plan, this is what is I call is planning the assignment effectively. So there are certain things are there. Plan it effectively, make it as far as possible simple.
Do we, how do we estimate the, future costs that, after the liquidation process is over, then if there is any cost like maintenance of records for 3 years or 8 years, how do we estimate those costs? And then how do we keep the provision and the fees or the cost of voluntary liquidation?
Sir, what I did, I'll tell you. In my first winding up only, there was 400 and 500 files. Box files were 450. Additional flat files were 70. So what we did, there are agencies. Online on Google also we searched. There are agencies. Of course, our professionals are only there. Some CA is there. Some CS is there. Some lawyer is there. Who have floated some LLPs or entities. They do provide these kind of services. To which we have entered into an 8 years agreement. I entered into an 8 years agreement for maintaining the records.
Correct, sir. That is for the storage. That is for the storage.
Yeah.
That of course is there. It can be ascertained. But suppose there is a litigation later on. Suppose there is any notice, show cause notice, you have to appear before any statutory authority. You have to appear before any, say like you have to appear for, before the court for any litigation that happens. Then what is the, way of managing those kind of costs that can happen in the future?
See, we need not worry if we have acted fairly and transparent manner in the entire process. And whatever remuneration we are taking, we have to take into consideration these factors also. So if I have received a notice, if I have called upon by some officer or authority, then I have to face that. If some big liability arises out of it, of which you are not aware, definitely the director is liable for that. It's not the liquidator is personally liable for that. It is they who have given the declaration of solvency. And I told you, what is important is at every stage, what decision you take. What is important is choosing right kind of assignment. A big public company, 200 shareholders are there. That came to me. It has a property of 3 crore 50 lakhs rupees. And they said, sir, there is no activity from last 7-8 years. And we want to close this company. There is a charge created by Union Bank. Union Bank has forgotten that loan. He says, according to that director, he says they have forgotten, they have stopped writing the letters, they are not sending it. So his intention is to dupe the money, not to pay the money. I did that meeting. I came back and I decided I'm not going to take this assignment. Where promoter clearly gives you a signal. He says that, sir, and he's selling the asset. He's having 3 crore 50 lakhs rupees asset. I told him, sir, you sell the asset, settle the creditors, because on the MCA website, although bank is not chasing you, on the MCA website, charge is there, that is registered. No authority under no law will allow you to close down the company. It doesn't happen that way. Sir, do one thing, sit with the bankers, do one-time settlement, claim for waiver, claim for interest, माफी मांगो, कुछ करो, लेकिन पैसे दे दो, पैसे मत डुबाओ सर. If that kind of thing is there, don't get into that assignment. Better deny the assignment. If it is open-ended, you are not able to gauge it, you are not able to forecast it, better not get to it. 7 to 8 assignment I have told not possible. They are not solvent. So not advisable. You go under 10. 10 also, if you are comfortable to. Unnecessary, we have a limit. Unnecessary, we are going to get stuck up. And sometimes this becomes endless job. So reading the management of the company, if they are really genuine, they have group of companies, knowing exactly the facts, what has happened, why the company was floated, are there any charges? We are professionals, so we are able to gauge the directors. We are dealing with the companies. Work comes from good reference. It is always a good work. Normally a good work. So झोलर जुगाड़ू लोग हैं उनसे दूर रह के, if we can avoid such assignments, taking up the assignment itself is a crux, in my view. Okay,
Yes,
so shall we wrap up?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
very much.
Thanks a
Shall we
lot, sir.
conclude, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. Is it
Thank you
finished
very
today?
much, sir, for giving your valuable time and sharing your experience. Sir, please share the PPT.
Definitely, ma'am. Today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much, sir.
Thank you.